Raising capital, it's not just marketing.
It's securities law.
Most deals, they don't fail because of the returns that are offered.
They fail because of compliance mistakes.
And that's what we do.
Every day, we help entrepreneurs raise money the right way.
Before problems ever start. If you're raising capital,
talk to crowdfunding lawyers first.
Digital Niche Agency is the top investor acquisition agency. DNA has helped founders raise over 9 figures via regulated investment crowdfunding with a 3-pronged strategy using digital advertising, content marketing, and strategic outreach. Book a call today.
The CFPA advocates and advances the regulated investment crowdfunding industry. This October, join founders, investors, platforms, and policymakers in Washington, D.C. for the Regulated Investment Crowdfunding Summit. Register now at ricsummit.org.
Behind today's biggest crowdfunding raises.
The leading CPA firm for Reg CF, Reg A, and Reg D compliance.
Trusted.
Experienced.
Set apart.
Eureka! How can I save money on a patent? That's it. Menlo Park Patents.
$50 shareholders can quickly become 5,000. One raise can get you there. An equity stock transfer is built for that scale. Learn more at equitystock.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the beginning of the end. We're going to have so much fun this afternoon. We'll be ranking the top 100. We've already ranked the number 100 through 51. We've done the top 10 big impact players. We've done the top 10 women founder CEO companies. And we're going to do this afternoon, we're going to do the top 10 environmental solutions companies, and then you'll hear all of the rest of the winners from 50 down to number 1. We're going to have all kinds of fun this afternoon, and also some amazing, important content mixed in there. So this is something you do not want to turn off. You do not want to turn away, not for 1 minute. Stay with us. We're going to kick this off with one of our women CEOs from one of the PurposeBuilt100 companies. So let me make a quick, proper introduction here to kick this off. Our next speaker helps people put their money where their values already are. Michelle Hoaxum is CEO of Revalue, a certified B Corp and registered investment advisory firm delivering values-based financial planning nationwide. An investment advisor representative with more than 30 years of experience, she co-leads the firm alongside founder Angela Barbash, guiding clients into community investing and regenerative local economies. B Corp certified in 2018 and recertified this year. Please welcome PurposeBuilt100 winner Michelle Hoaxum. So, Michelle, welcome. I'm excited to hear from you. So I'm just going to give you the stage.
Okay, I will take it away. Thank you so much. It's great to be here and so excited. Listening in on some of these other great conversations has been so fun, especially the one just given by Pamela and the importance of community partnerships. So we love that. We're right alongside of those kinds of initiatives. So I'm here today to share with you a little story about how Revalue is a purpose-built company for changing the flow of capital for humanity with humanity. So let's dive in together and hopefully we can learn some things together. So I just want to say thank you for being here to celebrate the top 100 purpose-built companies. It is an honor to be included in this community during this inaugural recognition. For all the companies that were built with a mission before this award, and for all the ones to follow, thank you for setting a new standard, and Revalue is so grateful to be a part of all of this. The last time I spoke in front of a large audience, I have to tell you it didn't go very well. I was in middle school in a gym running for student council. I didn't win and therefore decided I was not good at public speaking. Today, I am here shaking off that old myth and fear of the cobwebs, and I am inspired by the bravery Revalue demonstrates so well. And so I'm putting on courage today, as we do every single day, to do something different that can impact our community and those looking to join it. As Devin just mentioned, Angela Barbash is our founder, and more often than not, she is the one taking this public speaking role. But as we constantly look to push the status quo and ensure our culture internally reflects what we desire in the world, it seemed really important to step on stage today for this moment. To continue to test the status quo is how we grow and continue to be here. I am so happy to lead that effort every day. I think there's also a belief that you likely wouldn't start something if you knew how hard it was going to be. And I agree with that. It seems to be true. And I am thankful that every day Angela didn't know what she was getting into or possibly ignored the risks and went for it anyway. I'm pretty confident it's the latter, as she tends to be more fearless than not. It is also true that I would not have been able to join her if I had paid much attention to that hard part either. I did not know it until recently, but co-leadership is something I have been seeking my entire career. Growing up in a city where privately held companies are the norm, one thing that really stood out to me was that most of the successful ones were led in partnership. Usually someone out in front spreading the message and someone behind the scenes working on the mission and strategy. What amazes me every day is the yin-yang relationship Angela and I have. It might seem easier and faster to go it alone, but as the African proverb reminds us, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Co-leadership at its highest level of trust has the superpower to flip who does what and when. For an organization to have had rapid revenue growth like ours at over 300% since 2021, you must have strong cohesion of leadership and culture. This is absolutely step one. So, you're here listening to me, but you're probably maybe asking, what is Revalue and what does she do? She lives at the edge, the fertile boundary where capital meets community and where the most life takes hold. It is here, at this edge, that we are growing into the fullest expression of what's possible. More people reaching resources, deeper roots, and lived abundance. We lead regeneratively, using the wisdom of permaculture to inform how we think, plan, and grow. Observing before acting, working with what's already alive in a system rather than against it. Designing for the long yield, not the quick one. We love to serve, and service means honoring sovereignty. Every person we work with holds their own agency, their own path, their own way of defining a life well lived. Our role is not to hold wealth on somebody else's behalf, but to help it move through patient, private capital that flows with purpose for humanity with humanity. We hold that true wealth is multidimensional, made up of many forms of capital: social, living, cultural, spiritual, intellectual, attention, which I think we're all grappling with these days, built, and finally, financial. These multiple forms of capital are important because a whole life is not built from one root alone. We center on healing, recognizing that how capital has moved in the past has often left depletion in its wake. Our work is to help it flow differently, replenishing what it touches rather than extracting from it. There is no single right way to grow. We honor many paths, may it be technical, intuitive, analytical, or even contemplative. Revalue holds space for all of them, the way a healthy edge holds many species at once, each thriving because of, not despite, its neighbors. Revalue is stewarded by a small team of daily client-focused individuals. Todd, Rebecca, Jane, Camila, along with Angela and myself, our culture has a purpose of supporting our number 2 asset, our team. We are also a worker-owned organization with Pavan, Marshall, and Eric supporting our work behind the scenes in tech and investment committee meetings. And Clara keeps us grounded in homesteading principles. The purpose of Revalue was guided very early on with a B Corp certification. In fact, Revalue was the first registered investment advisor in Michigan to earn this distinction in 2018. Our number 1 reason for being here is our clients. Always. They are first. And this is where the story gets really good. Daily, our clients' values are directing our conversations and their investments. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals guide the conversation around values with additional access to investment screens that reflect economic and political events. We support community investment portfolios, both self-directed and managed, in a multifaceted approach: education, due diligence, asset allocation targets, tracking, and management. That is the primary niche we have, so our client mix is really diverse. However, a couple of patterns have become clear that I'd love to share with you today. For one, we have helped countless business owners start and then launch retirement planning options for themselves and often their entire company. And sometimes that's why they come to us, but really we are supporting them and giving them insight on how to grow their work and mission based on the work we have done even ourselves. We often give insight into spending plans and help them dream into what is possible, cultivating the edge, one prosperous business at a time. Another observation that we've had is that many of our clients come to us in anticipation of an inheritance. They want to plan. But others often find us after or while actively inheriting wealth. This is often with the death of a parent or relative, and the inheritance may be unexpected. Clients inheriting wealth who have never had access to resources before are now fearful or even unsure of the next move, while also dealing with deep grief and a great sense of responsibility. They are sentimental to these assets, as sometimes they are the very last tangible item of the past. So how do we unpack all of this? Some feel immense guilt about how the wealth was created and want to gift it all away to a favorite organization, thinking that will make it easier. Often, though, this is where the conversation really starts, in a grief state that can grow into abundance from clarity and understanding of what is possible. We are balancing a painful experience with financial implications of capital gains taxes and short and long-term planning. Once the client feels more grounded using the 10 forms of capital that I had mentioned earlier, they can be more curious about a conversation they might never have had before. What is capital, and how do I use it for a purpose in my life? It is a different answer for absolutely everyone. It is how we serve humanity with humanity. When it comes to investing in values, most clients can hardly believe that this is possible, so they start really small, maybe just by eliminating companies that are not making progress in climate control. Maybe that translates into holding no oil and gas companies. But then they realize after they've explored this a bit more that what really matters to them about the environment is the soil health and maybe nutritious food. So we start to redefine the value set and the companies that can be included and excluded. It's a process of digging deeper, and we later hear gratitude from our clients because they can be confident their portfolios no longer hold direct positions in companies that may be associated with things like detention centers, occupation areas, weapons, and now they are relieved to know that they are invested in solar, co-ops, and community. More than once, someone has said, "I feel so much lighter walking out of these conversations than I ever do when we begin." It is hard to miss the humanity in this work and why a template or boilerplate or even AI would ever be good enough to sort through these uniquely human, emotional decisions. Each client has their own path that we support. Even our self-learning online community called The Collaborative has exercises for clients to reflect deeply on their values and money stories, and multiple opportunities for human connection. When our clients arrive, we start with an investment policy statement, or what we call IPS for short, which is a detailed document containing information about asset allocation, time horizon, investment strategy, and values. There is not an industry standard for this document, and clients have often not received one. And when they do, they often state that it's been a cookie-cutter approach that can miss the human touch and engagement. A boilerplate that does not capture the why, and this is what we change. Given the significance of this document, one client recently asked if they could write their own story instead of us. It is no wonder to me that they wanted to do this, since this particular client is a talented writer and Substack publisher. Their personal story has become their investment invocation, which begins every conversation and meeting we hold. We read this meditation together to ground why the client is here and why this time together really matters. That particular one in that IPS is a private meditation, but there is a public piece to give you a sense of their writing and how different this reading is from traditional finance that I would love to share with you here right now. This particular one is called Deviation for the Collective. There is a filament, a threaded white light, weaving its way between the worlds of earthbound body and sky island, a living, breathing totem to our offspring, where the most benevolent, invisible beings work on our behalf, raining instructions through the tired atmosphere. In a language we used to know, the only one we ever used, because it was enough. It was enough to feel soft fur, sunlight, the dowry of stars, to read the unwritten and the beating, breaking heart beside us. It was enough to be nothing. To be a seed, grow a root system with stem and shoot and stalk, and yet be empty of corn and callus, to be simply a sheaf receiving soft rain. So that to me is not how I normally start most financial conversations, let alone a portfolio conversation. But I think it does a really great job of demonstrating that this is how Revalue meets our clients where they are, what they need, and letting them have their own path. By way of storytelling, Revalue's clients are also find purpose through generosity. Many clients have big redistribution goals. When they do, it is an integral part of our financial planning. We illustrate what is possible and what are the trade-offs of these decisions. We don't tell them not to make a redistribution. Our clients using donor advised funds often send out millions of dollars every year. Some also just prefer to give stock directly to organizations, and those gifts are also exceeding millions of dollars. A few clients give their entire annual trust distribution to organizations that are values aligned. Many clients are drawn to land-based work like returning land to Black and Indigenous stewardship. They also want to support worker-owned businesses and a new economic system that works for everyone, not just wealthy business owners. Another client has helped organize their entire family to support Indigenous land reclamation in the Northeast. This is part of a restoration of nearly 30,000 acres to the Penobscot Nation, and it is the largest land return between a U.S.-based nonprofit and a tribal nation, while also creating access to the Katahdin Woods and Waters National Monument. I have to say thank you for that amazing work. So many of our clients are not tied to tax incentives to inspire their gifting. They give generously to non-tax exempt 501c4s and mutual aid efforts with fantastic social impact and no real financial return for themselves. In addition to making contributions, clients are making investments into community by way of private placements that focus on social returns. We help our clients determine if the lack of liquidity and the amount of risk is something they can tolerate. Investments into loan funds that distribute them to BIPOC business owners, who many would not have had access to funding even during the pandemic when stimulus payments were so prevalent. These loan funds help farmers sometimes convert their land to organic and regenerative farming, along with others creating resources for childcare and co-ops. This is the kind of investing that started the firm and sets the tone for what purpose means. Truly humanity with humanity. Also, education is not just a nice to have at Revalue, it is the cornerstone of our work. It is the thread that connects the purpose and growth of our organization. For at the end of the day, individuals and organizations come to Revalue to understand what is possible at the edges in the rich soil that feeds humanity. It is in this space that clients get dirty and messy with their past beliefs and future dreams. They come to unpack generational wealth or lack thereof and find a path forward in the flow of abundance of mindset and knowledge. It is through this difficulty that they come to feel empowered to their own financial future and chart a path in deep knowledge and confidence. So here I am, some 45 years later, far beyond the disappointment of not leading the student council, but rather fully engaged by the most incredible group of fearless team members who are being curious as to how the Edge can support more stories of growth and change. I am beyond thrilled to have this chance to share this story, my story, and the story of countless others and amazing clients that come to Revalue for care, growth, and purpose for all. As Jimmy Carter said in his presidential acceptance speech, we have learned that more is not necessarily better, that even our great nation has its recognized limits, and that we can neither answer all questions nor solve all problems. We cannot afford to do everything, nor can we afford to lack boldness as we meet the future. So together, in a spirit of individual sacrifice for the common good, we must simply do our best. I am thrilled to be with the leaders of the other 99 companies being honored here, each doing their best for the common good. Together, we can form a culture that inspires more individuals to do the hard thing, to forming businesses that support a new way of undertaking and an old or an existing problem with purpose over productivity. Purpose that allows for growth, deeply rooted in change and abundance. Real growth that happens on the edges where abundance thrives because of our neighbors, not in spite of them. Revalue does this every day, and I have no doubt that we will continue to grow in the direction that supports humanity with humanity. A constant curiosity about how finance can support purpose for all, and knowing that the common good can support all of us on a journey to have our strengths support our weaknesses, and that community can lead to a deeper wisdom for humanity. May you all feel empowered to show up for the really hard things and accomplish the very best things. Thank you for being here with me today, and stay tuned for more big reveals from the PurposeBuilt 100 community. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you so much. I just love your remarks. I'm such a huge fan of Jimmy Carter. I appreciate you calling out that really powerful quote that I don't remember having heard before. I probably did hear his inauguration live. I'm that old. I think there are 3 people older than I am. But one of the highlights of my life was visiting his home. I didn't get inside. I didn't get to meet him. Okay. But I went to Plains, stood outside his home, paid homage. It was an important life experience.
It was a a tough choice between Carter and Ford, since my hometown is Ford's hometown as well. So
yeah. That would have been a tough decision at that time, especially. Michelle, you and I recorded an episode of the Superpowers for Good show that will air this coming week. And you said something there that I want to revisit today because I think it's important and worth talking about. But you mentioned that you kind of let your customers, your clients, decide how much to pay you. And so that enables you in a way to work with people of relatively modest wealth. Tell us a little bit about that decision and you know, were you fibbing?
Yeah, that came out of actually some of the work that we did during the pandemic and really wanting to be focused on being accessible to all. And we felt like that was very important because we felt like our purpose was to help eliminate the wealth gap. And so we decided that our onboarding process, instead of having someone pay us a flat fee for onboarding, that we would ask them to pay what they valued and that they could come up with how much they wanted to pay us outright. And it was a really fun experience. It actually taught clients, I think, that this is your first values decision that you're going to make on this journey with us. I won't lie, most clients didn't actually like it. I mean, they thought it was amazing. And then they'd be like, but just tell me how much I have to pay you, right? Like they thought, oh, this is so cool and different. Yet, oh my gosh, I've never done this before. This seems so crazy. So we have since shifted away from that a little bit because it was maybe a little too uncomfortable for people. And we really worked hard, quite frankly, to get really efficient on our onboarding process. And so we felt like that was part of our growth strategies, right? Like that we were leveling up and we could get to a place that we didn't need to even ask for that additional fund of pay us your sort of onboarding fee. So yeah, that was like deep in our ethos in the very beginning. It's still there, but we don't ask clients to pay that fee anymore. So
that's great. That's great. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations on being a Purpose Built 100 winner. We're happy for you, and really, you know, in an ecosystem like ours, Revalue is an essential participant in that ecosystem, and so we're thrilled to have you be a part of our community. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Appreciate it a lot.
All righty. It's now my opportunity. Oh, goody. I get to announce more winners. And there's nothing I love more than doing that. That's the highlight of my day. So we're going to review now. I'm going to announce the top 10 environmental solutions from the Purpose Built 100 list. So this is a subset of winners that are doing climate stuff. Right, so they have climate-related or environmental, I shouldn't say climate, environmental-related solutions. Now, lots of businesses do this at some level that is non-core. A lot do, and I'm so glad that so many of the Purpose Built 100 are doing something that is, you know, to avoid harming the planet. But these 10 are doing something deliberate to really address environmental problems. So I'm excited to announce these 10. So the first one on the list is number 10, is Sunrun. And you may recall Sunrun was the number one fastest growing in the big impact players list. And so that was the list of companies when they were ranked by arithmetic growth. That is 2025 revenue minus 2021 revenue. Sunrun had grown the most in dollars. But this ranking now is ranked in order of percentage growth from 2021 to 2025. And so Sunrun still does well. They've added so much revenue that they jump into this number 10 position on environmental solutions. But let's see who else is on the list. Now, number 9, Hempatexture. This is a company that is making insulation from carbon negative hemp instead of fiberglass. I love Hempatexture. I've had the CEO on the show before. He's a great human being, and they've done some crowdfunding in the past. So many in our community are investors in Hempatexture. So to all of you and to the team at Hempatexture, congratulations. Zeo Energy, another solar, home solar focused solar company, delivering the impact and savings that come from having your solar. I'm excited because we get our solar installed tomorrow. Coincidentally, it's neither Zeo nor Sunrun. Forgive me, Zeo and Sunrun. But number 7 is the National Energy Improvement Fund. This is a certified B Corp. Their activities are financial, but they are entirely devoted to the environment, to energy efficiency. So big congratulations to NEIF. We're happy for them. This is a company that's been in the crowdfunding community. I think they just completed a raise themselves. Really a great company. Sunrun. Neighborhood Sun, community solar for renters and homeowners. Neighborhood Sun Solar. This is a great company, really a fabulous, another example of deploying solar in a way that is benefiting not only the environment, but that neighborhood approach. The community approach is giving access in ways that really make it accessible for people who may or may not be in a position to put solar on their own homes. AquaCycle. Ho, 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 ho. This is an exciting one. Number 5, AquaCycle. Here is one of the few triple play companies. There are only 3 companies that show up on 3 lists. Sunrun, which is the number 1 fastest growing PurposeBuilt100 Company on the big impact players list, and number 10 on the environmental list, and they are on the overall list. So they're on 3 lists. Congratulations to them. And AquaCycle. AquaCycle, number 5 on this list, also on, of course, the overall list, and on the list of the top fastest growing women founder, women-led businesses. So triple play here with AquaCycle. Congratulations to the team at AquaCycle. This is a big, big deal. And I hope you appreciate, we certainly love, honor, and respect you and are grateful to you. Airthium, another company. This is a company that's using industrial heat pump energy to decarbonize the grid. Airthium is doing amazing work. They've also done a lot of crowdfunding, raised a lot of capital. Maybe most of their capital has come from the crowd. Very exciting to see Airthium on the podium here, deploying industrial scale heat pump technology to decarbonize a lot of the processes, the industrial processes, right, that are going on, manufacturing. And so very cool to see that. BioLargo, number 3, tackling the, PFAS and water contamination, cleaning things up there. BioLargo, number 3. And number 2, another triple play. Oh my gosh. Triple play. So Tampon Tribe, number 2 on this list. Holy cow. Also high on the women-led business list. And we haven't seen their number come up yet on the overall list. So this Tampon Tribe is a very exciting company to be watching. Congratulations and kudos to the team at Tampon Tribe. And now, I should get the drum roll sound effect ready to go. But our drum roll for number 1, Azure Printed Homes. yesterday, Azure participated in the live pitch. We heard from Gene earlier today because we knew months ago he was doing some really cool things. We invited him to be a part of this, and now it turns out Azure is the fastest growing environmental solution in the PurposeBuilt 100. Gene, congratulations to you and Ross and the rest of the team. Oh, good job, Shannon. Thank you. I'm going to bring our good friend Gene onto the stage here with me. Gene, congratulations. This is such a big deal. We're so happy for you. What does it feel like to be the #1 fastest growing purpose-driven company with an environmental solution?
Devin, thank you so much. And it's a real honor to be #1 on the environmental solution list. You know, being named #1 in this category is especially meaningful because Azure was founded around a simple idea. Sustainability should not make housing more expensive. It should help make housing better, faster, and more affordable. So we take recycled materials that might otherwise be used in landfills and use robotics and 3D printing to help manufacture high-quality homes. But what excites us most is where these homes are going. We've built beautiful homes for hospitality and private buyers. We're using the same manufacturing platform to create housing for the homeless, affordable housing. And then we're building luxury homes to rebuild the areas that were devastated by wildfires in Altadena and Palisades last year. I'm incredibly proud of our team. This recognition belongs to the approximately 40 people at Azure who are turning an ambition idea that Ross and I had 4 years ago into a real manufacturing business every day, as well as our customers, partners, investors who believe in what we're building. And congratulations to all other companies recognized today. I mean, I just saw this 10. Every one of them has an incredible solution, and every one of them is probably just as hard as it is to invent any new business. When you invent a new idea and then think also about sustainability, it's hard. I think that PurposeBuilt 100 demonstrates something very important, that doing good and building a great business don't have to be competing objectives. When economics and impact reinforce each other, we have opportunity to achieve both at scale. So thank you so much. You mentioned Jimmy Carter. Actually, my father-in-law worked for Jimmy Carter and traveled the world with him. And I built some homes. This ages me, but about 35 years ago in Atlanta with Jimmy Carter when he was just starting Habitat for Humanity. So that's a real nice thought. What an incredible human being he was. Again, combining political success with doing good for so many years after he ended his presidency. So, Devin, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We're just thrilled to have had you here, and congratulations, Gene, to you and the team. We are so grateful, and we're proud to have you be a part of our community, and grateful. You've been on our show a time or two over the years. You've done a couple of the live pitches. I think that you did a live pitch, one of our rare in-person live pitches in Los Angeles last year.
The
We're
last
proud.
pitch was yesterday when my show. So I've done probably over 100 pitches, and finally, I followed your advice to get an extra screen. It just didn't work. So
I'm sorry.
Just when you think
It's all my
you've done
fault.
it well, it gets you back to where you started.
Well, but congratulations. You've achieved great things. And we're proud to have been standing with you a little bit and watching you as you have progressed year after year. Kudos and congratulations, and we are excited to see what comes in the future, because it sounds to me like your plans are big. You're not slowing down anytime soon. So
Need to accelerate. So we'll be back on your shows. Let's hear this.
fantastic. We'll look forward to it, Gene. Thank you very, very much. All righty. I'm excited now to introduce our next speaker. he's a giant in the environmental solutions world. Our next speaker has been doing this work for 5 decades and was there at the beginning of the modern environmental movement, involved in launching Earth Day and the first UN conference on the human environment in Stockholm. Professor Alan Tratner is International Director of Green to Gold, a serial inventor with 13 patents, and has mentored thousands of green technology pioneers. Dubbed the Minister of Ideas, featured in Time, the Wall Street Journal, CNN, and Oprah, please welcome Professor Alan Tratner. All righty, Alan.
Greetings, fellow Earthlings. I am so happy to follow the top 10 environmental and purpose-built 100. I just am thrilled about that. And for Gene and the other ones that were related to environmental stuff, I'm so pleased that you did that. And this gives me a perfect segue for what I'm about to do.
Well, thank you. And we're excited to have you present. This is some really amazing work that you are continuing to do. Let me see. There we go. Okay, I think we got this ready for you now. I've got your slides ready for you, so let's get to work.
Let's do it. So, again, aloha, everybody. I think they have the, right, the first slide is on, and if they can make it full screen, that would be great. It depends on what they're able to do. But let me get into this. This section, which is so appropriate for what we just did with PurposeBuilt100 in the top 10, it's just incredible. But this is, I'm calling this Earth Enterprising, the extreme priorities and opportunities for ventures and investors. In a sense, it's about regenerative capitalism. But we get a little bit deeper because I want everyone that's watching and everyone that's an entrepreneur, an inventor, anyone that's an investor of any kind of ilk to think about, I'm opening an invitation to you. And this is about what we're doing right now. This is a major collaborative project. It's called Regeneration Global. It's an alliance, a strategic alliance with multiple entities around the globe. It is between Earth Stock Enterprises that we incubate. They're both their for-profit entrepreneurship venture and their nonprofit, and Green to Gold, our incubator for 56 years, as has been pointed out. You know, we have more than 100,000 members that are inventor entrepreneurs and innovators and scientists and researchers that are on the, what I call the for-profit side of creating the inclusive green economy, which we've been fostering. And my involvement in Earth Day and ever since has been trying to create from the grassroots up to nations down the green economy that will solve most of the problems that we have on this planet in living together, in being a part of what this planet gives us, all the life support. And in addition to that, our incubator is a nonprofit and quite an anomaly and tax exempt, and we don't take equity in the ventures that we have. And we also are another anomaly in that we incubate nonprofits like ourselves, more than 357 to date, that are socially and environmentally responsible. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that breadth and spectrum of what we do. There's a wonderful interaction in symbiosis, in symbiotic interaction between our for-profits, the nonprofits, and the mothership of Green to Gold, and that's helped drive us. And I'm so proud to have worked with Devin in creating what he did this past year, and that we're going to continue in January. I hope everyone learned about it and tuned in. It was actually Super Green Live on 3 days in every continent except Antarctica. And it was pretty extraordinary what we accomplished there. But I want to take it another step now, and I want to invite everybody to understand and participate in this. There's no cost, in a sense, to being involved in what I'm about to outline, but it's one of the most crucial things that we do in the world right now, this climate-driven disaster situation that is partially caused by human intervention. No matter what the deniers say, it's happening around the world at incredible rates in unprecedented impacts that are affecting even where I am in Lahaina, Maui. The world watched the incineration of a city from a climate-driven disaster, and then we've had a tsunami, and we've had a hurricane, and tropical storms, and fires, and droughts. We're kind of like the poster child for proving climate disasters and how to respond to them. So I want to go to the next slide. Yes, that's perfect. Okay. This is, and if you can see that, I don't know if you can make it larger, but that's fine. This is about the impacts that are happening from climate change. And this is that existential threat that is happening to mankind. You know, I worked with Al Gore in the 90s when he was vice president. We did the Green Business Conference and all those eco expos. And this is an important thing to understand. We're at a point of change on this planet that we all have to rally to. We only have one planet, the Earth. And Buckminster Fuller called it the spaceship Earth, and he had it right. And basically, we're all a part of that. And this is the big changes that are happening. Most people don't understand that what we've been contributing to the environmental disasters is the carbon and the other kinds of pollutions that are involved in the oceans and in the air, in our food. Everything that we do, it's affecting now generations and future generations and all the species of life. This is an ecosystem called the biosphere. And behind me on the wall for the United Nations conference was one of the wall charts that I painted and wrote called the Biosphere of Spaceship Earth. We're all connected. And no one can deny that. No matter what you do in life, and whether you're the President of the United States or working in a farm or whatever happens in between, we're all connected. We're breathing that same air. We're drinking the water of the planet. The soil's creating the foods that we eat. And then the sun is giving us an incredible warmth and life that keeps this all cooking. And we've got to do something to change. And what we're going to do with this new Regeneration Global Alliance is make a difference by actually crowdsourcing solutionaries. So can I have that next slide? And this is what it's about. There's three actually overlapping, that's fine, you can get in, that's fine, thank you. There's three overlapping rings, okay? What we're trying to do is do prevention and resilience. And that is preventing the disasters from happening in the first place. That includes the biggest problem of all is mitigation of climate change from carbon and all that. But it is also on a local community basis and a real live person-by-person basis about prevention and resilience against climate-driven disasters at an unprecedented pace. The one in the middle came out of the Lahaina disaster. We created Build Back Green. And we had a 5-hour global broadcast a few weeks after the event happened. We had no power, we had no telecommunications, everything else, but then we were able to muster this, and it was a way to show the solutions that are extant, our technologies, our methodologies, our processes, the products and technology and services that are available that can build back green after the disaster, something that around the world now everyone's encountering. And how do you become self-secure and independent and renewably powered and have security in food and in making good green jobs and preventing pollution from happening? All of that is in the Build Back Green program. And then finally, is kind of like the whole enchilada, what I've been doing ever since Earth Day in our organization and traveling around this planet and working with politicians and working with corporations, working with communities. And that is this inclusive green economy And our master project is the transition to sustainability that allows that to happen. We don't want to throw people out of work. We want to retrain them and move them into the sustainable enterprises of the world. And we want to try to have less disruption of where we are now, even if it's polluting. We want to have a transitional phase that makes the most economic sense, makes hopefully the most incredible environmental sense to move to this global green economy that's at the community levels and then also at national levels, and where we're proposing this happens. The importance of this is what I'm going to try to make clear to you. We have assembled, and that will be in the next slide, which should be right. This is from our air table, this presentation about what we're trying to represent to the world, that we have the movers, the solutionaries, the doers, the technology, the alliances, the collaborations, all the things that are necessary to solutionize the problems I've just been outlining. And from A to Z, literally, and we have a Z, it's not on there, we're trying to identify every situation of human endeavor that we can bring to bear and be able to solve the problems of resilience and prevention, and then building back green if you've been unfortunate enough to suffer a climate-driven disaster, let alone war, human warfare, and what happens with those disasters. They're horrible. That's, to me, the worst pollution of all, is what we do to ourselves and the planet and all the species in making war on ourselves, and we have to tackle that too. But then there's this whole thing about all of this is the propulsion for the green economy, inclusive green economy, that would be at the community levels and with nations all the way down. So grassroots up, nations all the way down. What I'm inviting everyone to consider is that we have an open call for you as a consultant, as an inventor, as an entrepreneur, as a manufacturer, as a governmental agency, as a service provider, products, technology. We have something called the Harm-Free Emporium. We're really probably been working on this since the COVID disaster. And this is harm-free to humans, harm-free to plants, harm-free to animals, and harm-free to the planet. We're trying to bring to the marketplace all the thousands of products and technologies that are appropriate for building at your home base and then in your community this idea of the localized, inclusive green economy. So what we're inviting people to do is get a hold of us and let us know. We would love to see a flyer, a one-pager that describes what you do, what you have, what your technology is, your expertise in all these different fields and more. Anything that we haven't put on this list, we want to know about, because we're making a collaborative effort to be the turnkey solution when people have a problem in this whole issue of moving to the green economy or having a climate disaster, that we can be that immediate first responder that covers all those things. We have a veterinarian that has incredible programs for animals and pets that often are forgotten about in the climate disasters and all this, and a whole program about that, including affecting $100 billion industry, the pet industry, about making them sustainable in different alternative foods. Devin has focused and shown some of the people the cricket-based product for snacks that is for the pets. There's so many solutions out there, and we want to encourage that. Then finally, that's a freebie. Let us know about who you are. I'll talk a little bit about our incubator. So we're a mixed-use, mixed-tech incubator from Earth Day on, global in nature. With the original impact incubator, we probably are the longest existing continuously operating foremost incubator with more than 100,000 members and 357 nonprofits, and all kinds of interns from around the world that care about this at every kind of level of education and postgrad and undergrad that are helping us. But I just want to make it really clear that our incubator is mixed tech, mixed use. We're nonprofit, we don't take equity. If you need help in developing your business, and by the way, incubation comes first. not acceleration. Accelerations came out of this whole thing that you already had an enterprise and a team, and you had products and services and had investment, and you already had sales. We're at the heart of so many enterprises and nonprofits. That's where you get that real start. So if you have a brand new idea for changing the world, that impactful stuff that Devin has been devoted to, that's why there's powers for and SuperCrowd for Good. We want to help you. But what is cool to know, and something that we've stated in a couple of the sessions the last couple of days, do you know incubation now achieves an 89%, almost 90% success rate across the board? And in the United States, we're the most entrepreneurial nation on the planet. 1 in 10 Americans creates a new enterprise, a small business that drives our economy. And do you know that in the first year to the third year, 90% of those people collapse, fold up, all because they didn't know how to get over the obstacles, didn't know where they were going, how to do equity crowdfunding and other kinds of fundraising, all of the issues that an incubator changes the dynamics for you, a 90% success rate. I read a statistic that something like 7 out of 10 of the Fortune 500 companies had some CEO, major person that was involved in that, coming out of recessions and depressions and everything else, and they grew. They were in incubators and succeeded. And so I want to toss that in the fold for those of you that need that extra boost, that need that extra assistance. We are working, of course, so closely with Devin and SuperCrowd and the Super Green Live that will be again in February next year. We're looking forward to how dynamic that will be. But I'm inviting everyone that has some talent, some technology, some solution, some process that can help this global alliance become the first responders to everyone's needs and build these community bases. And the part that relates to our incubator is that I was like Johnny Appleseed running around the planet and doing this sustainable economic development. This is the pathway to cause good green development, jobs and everything, save the planet and keep the economies running. And that's why I was using the phrase, regenerative capitalism. It's a way of looking at this from an impact and social and environmental standpoint. And you can bring a green to gold incubator to your community. That's what we love to do. Anywhere in the world, we can bring that, and it's a whole wonderful little presentation on how to do it, how to get the stakeholders together, how to make a difference, and build your economic base locally, that you don't buy solar panels from Asia or whatever it is, and all that money flows to other corporations. We can build that into your community, make your own renewable energy, whether it's geothermal or wind or solar or biotech or whatever it might be. We show you how to do that. And we bring some of these potential licenses, so right from the get-go that you're doing that, and can be in a used office building, a empty factory. It can be anywhere, open land. You start with infrastructure. But like Gene has those, number one vote in the purpose-built situation that was just before us. You making those little factories that are what I call micro manufacturing, that are clean. There's no smokestacks and there's no pollution coming out of those. They're doing it the right way. And we like to bring that with us. So it's a green to gold incubator for your community. It's a micro manufacturing hub. We now have biotech with us, and it is really a beautiful thing. And I'm going to leave you with that invitation to get a hold of us. If you have a solution and you have technology and products, and so we want to know about it, we want to feature you in this, make an arrangement with you about how you can win from that, get more customers, get new leads, get new opportunities. And I'm going to leave you with this final statement. This is from Ambassador Adlai Stevenson, and this hit me and changed my whole life in 1965. And it was called Spaceship Earth. We traveled together, passengers, on a little spaceship, dependent on its vulnerable reserves of air and soil, all committed for our safety, to its security and peace, preserved from annihilation only by the care, the work, and the love we give our fragile craft. We cannot maintain it half fortunate, half miserable, half confident, half despairing, half slave to the ancient enemies of man, half free in a liberation of resources undreamed of until this day. No craft, no crew can travel safely with such vast contradictions. On their resolution depends the survival of us all. And that's why I'm calling you all to help participate in our Regeneration Global Alliance. Be that source, be that solutionary, make a difference, make the future happen. We could have a utopic planet if we wanted. We just have to do it with political will and with raising money from investors, and also with the technology and the smarts of our creative individuals. Humanity is part of the crew and the craft and the piloting of Spaceship Earth. So I want to say mahalo, as we say in Hawaii. It's a rich, deep thank you and goodbye from my presentation. I'm sure Devin will join us right now, but I really appreciated following this presentation about the top 10. It was just exciting to hear and see who was being honored for their involvement in the environmental field.
Alan, thank you so much for being with us. It really was a joy to have you back and be a part of our community. It is exciting to think about all the good work that you're doing, and I'm especially inspired by your work in rebuilding in Lahaina. It's a perfect example of the intersection of community building and climate and environmental solutions. I congratulate you for leading that effort and helping that community not only rebuild, but rebuild green. So congratulations and thank you for your great work. It is now my pleasure to introduce the moderator for our next panel, and I confess I get to be a participant in this panel, but I'm going to introduce our moderator. Back with us to moderate is the man who told you his story on Tuesday, financially ruined in 2008, and instead of asking who to blame, he asked why. Paul Lovejoy of Stakeholder Enterprise then ran the experiment. 366 days of investing in local capital markets, 1,000 opportunities evaluated, 500 businesses funded. Holy Toledo! Nobody is better placed to ask who decides where impact capital goes. Paul, I'm excited to have you lead this discussion.
Well, Devin, thank you. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. And I am so glad that you decided to have this session as a part of SuperCrowd26. I think it's a really important conversation that, frankly, a lot of people are kind of scared to touch, but you showed some real courage in allowing us to have this conversation in public in front of an audience. So thank you, Devin.
Oh, it's the tiniest contribution. Paul, you're really the genius behind this. You crafted this idea and suggested the four of us get together and have this conversation in a public forum where we could explain to especially the impact investing sophisticates the essential role that crowdfunding can play. So I'm excited. Go ahead.
Great. Well. So let's just thank everyone who's watching for being here. And I want to kick things off with a question, because I think the answer most of you out there watching is have an answer that's far more accurate than anything I could tell you from up here. And here's what it is. If you had $100,000 to deploy into your community right now, what would you invest in? All right, now just take a second. Don't overthink it. What's the first thing that's coming to mind? Okay. Hold on to that answer. We're going to come back to it. So here's the thing I've noticed, and almost nobody answers that question with a Series B round. Almost nobody says growth equity or ESG funds. People say a grocery store, a daycare, a healthcare clinic, something they can picture in a place they can picture, helping people they can actually picture. And I think that instinct is correct. It's also more often than not how impact capital actually deploys. And I see there's this gap between what we know a community needs and what capital is actually built to fund. And the gap isn't about good intentions. Nobody in impact investing lacks good intentions. The gap is structural. It's about instruments, about diligence, about who's actually listening and how. So I have 3 people right here next to me who've each closed that gap in a completely different way. First, we have Jenny Kassan. She is the CEO of Baltimore Community Commons, a community development project that used investment dollars from the community and will eventually exit it to the residents of that community. She's a senior attorney at the innovative law firm of Jason Wiener PC that helps founders design their businesses with steward ownership from the get-go. And let's not forget that she's a founding mother of regulation crowdfunding, who helped pass the legal architecture that makes community-aligned capital possible, and then went and used it herself. We also have Lyneir Richardson, CEO of the Chicago Trend Corporation, a social enterprise that revitalizes urban commercial corridors by acquiring and redeveloping neighborhood shopping centers while allowing open ownership in those properties to local community investors. He has also closed community wealth building raises 5 times in 4 cities. And he's an absolute legend in this space. I imagine he has an insight or 2 on this subject. And of course, the man of the hour, Devin Thorpe, founder and CEO of the SuperCrowd, a public benefit corporation specializing in all things impact crowdfunding. He's the guy throwing this SuperCrowd26 party. He's a former investment banker turned social entrepreneur, and he's been watching this entire market with a wide lens for a decade and can tell you whether funding gaps of quality community raises are rare or a lot more common than most people realize. 3 different vantage points, same underlying question. Who decides where impact capital goes? Let's find out. So Devin, let's start with you. You've interviewed hundreds, maybe thousands of founders and practitioners in the impact investing ecosystem, and you've seen the entire market with a bird's eye view. So tell the room, in aggregate, today, how is impact capital actually being deployed?
Yeah, I'm excited about the crowdfunding space because it is growing, it's thriving in so many ways, but I think your point is that it is a tiny sliver of even the impact capital, impact investing capital market. And, people argue about how big that space is, but it's clearly a space that is measured in multiple billions. Some would argue now that it's even in the trillions, and virtually all of that outside of the crowdfunding space is being deployed by well-intentioned, good-hearted human beings who often have no idea what's going on the ground where they're deploying that capital. And so, it's scary to think about someone competing with Lyneir on his projects, right? With outside capital deployed without involving the local community. I mean, it's antithetical to the impact Lyneir is creating. And yet, there are countless people in this world deploying capital that way with the idea in mind that they are having a positive impact. And sometimes they're just, we like the word redevelopment, but I think Lyneir has another word for it. In any case, that's my take on it, is that we've got to do better.
Yeah, I agree. There is this common thought in impact capital, and also they have deal memos, and there's a lot of bureaucracy that goes on. And they don't always include the community in those deal memos. So, Lyneir, what's the view like from the ground? Like, living in Chicago, I imagine you've seen the broken promises and failed attempts of impact capital trying to rescue communities with their wisdom and wealth. What did they get wrong?
No, thank you, Paul. First of all, can we just give Paul, is he Dick Clark or Ryan Seacrest? He's giving them a run for their money as a sponsor and they announcer here. Thank you for being the moderator. And thanks to Jenny for creating, the early structure, which has allowed us to do what we do, right? So we started our work, really got lift in 2020, right after George Floyd was murdered. There was a clarion call for racial justice investment strategies and ways to close the racial wealth gap. And it became very clear to me that wealth is created by owning assets that generate revenue and appreciate over time. And during that period, everyone's like, what can we do? What can we do? And I remember forming initially a fund that has primarily impact investors who've written checks of, on average, $1 million to $2 million. That's large foundations like Kresge and MacArthur. There's high net worth individuals, some of who who are very renowned in the impact space. And there's my favorite investor is an Order of Nuns who, on a Zoom call said, I kind of like this, and committed a couple $100,000 to our fund. Really exciting. Why do I mention them first? Is the vehicle of patient, flexible capital has empowered our strategy of tying up a property, doing the due diligence and the financial underwriting, doing the deal structuring, and then ultimately creating, regulation crowdfunding offerings that register with the SEC and, FINRA compliant. And I use a platform which I call old school community organizing, which I can put all of the information on a publicly facing website. And I meet with people in church basements, in apartment building common areas, in the public library. I did a meeting in the barbershop, right? And so the registration, putting it out, publicly on a FINRA compliant site, publicly facing, but then meeting with people and saying, who knocks on your door and never invites you intentionally to own something in your community? That's the marriage, right? So you got community capital. We now have over 550 people who've invested on average $2,500, right? I mean, a lot of people at 1,000, some at 5 or 10. 70% or more are people of color. 44% are women. Very different than the traditional commercial real estate equity holders. But these people also live in the neighborhood, so they patronize, protect, and respect the shopping centers and participate in the economic growth that's happening in community. That work is empowered by the case we made that if you're truly an impact investor, a wealth holder, a foundation who wants to empower local ownership, wants to close wealth gaps, wants to make neighborhoods better, that's the best way, or this is a strategy for using your capital.
Well, Lyneir, I loved how you took my question, which was kind of, a negative, and you spun it into a real positive there. And I got to say, I got goosebumps when you said, you're meeting with the residents. It seems kind of like a no-brainer, but it's not being done. And I just think you're such a wonderful example of how to do it right. And so thank you for sharing that with us, and the fact that you're actually getting people to build wealth at a grassroots level.
Thank you for that.
Owning assets, the community's assets. That's so rare in happening. But most of the time, from what I see, is we have institutional impact capital deploying, and they're capturing the returns from that investment. And what if that's a mechanism of gentrification itself, Lyneir?
Yeah, two quick things. First of all, as I said, I really, the idea for this panel I always thought made so much sense because it's such an important message of how, wealth holders, people who really call themselves, impact investors, foundations, corporations with impact orientations, how they have an opportunity and even to empower this local ownership and local investment. And I often think they don't realize it. And so part of the work, when I think about like Penny Pritzker, the former U.S. Commerce Secretary, has a family foundation. The work they're investing in our fund, it allows us to go and have those meetings, to be urgent but patient, to answer people questions. And you can imagine, Paul, I walk into a meeting and we own properties in Chicago and Baltimore and Columbus, Ohio, next week in Minneapolis. And people always start out very cynical. Who is this guy? Who's this outsider? What's shopping center? Why a shopping center? But I love to have the time to answer the questions. Why we're doing this? We're earnest in our effort. We have a track record. Here's how you get a return. That work is powered by philanthropy. It's empowered by macro, the larger investors who are making $1 million or $2 million investment. And then the last thing I'll mention is they also took a return that was lower than the community investors, right? So if we're right, obviously this is community investment, it's not community contribution. So the impact investors get a return on their capital. We're really right, they'll get an 8, maybe a 10% total return. And the community investors, if we're right, will get a 15, maybe even 18% annualized IRR. That work, if they don't pay the fund management fees, the community investors, the philanthropy does, so that work of how do we give philanthropy both, and the impact investors a return of their capital, but also really incentivize and boost the returns from the local people who live there, is something that's really powerful. So there needs to be more, I think, impact first investors, right? For every impact first investor I've met, like Kresge or the Serdna Foundation and others, there have been 10 finance first investors. They're like, well, look, can you get us a 20% return? And then is there some impact? So what we need more of, and I'm a champion for, is folks who say, show me you can give me my money back, show you can give me return, but first show me the impact of your investment and how is it making neighborhoods better, how is it generating economic mobility and economic development, sort of quality of life in neighborhoods.
Awesome. I'm going to shift it over to you, Jenny, now. You not only helped reform the laws, opening the doors for community-aligned capital, you used it yourself with Mulberry in Baltimore as the CEO of Baltimore Community Commons. Walk us through it. How did you build a community-funded raise for a project the community actually wants, or impact capital deployed as a neighbor instead of a hero?
Thank you for asking that question. So I have been working on this issue of allowing everybody to become impact investors in the things that they want to invest in. I first started looking at it 20 years ago, trying to understand why it was that those of us who do have money to invest, all of our money pretty much is invested in the public markets. And the public markets consist of about 3,000 companies. Why is it that we can't invest in other businesses that are not publicly traded? And by the way, when not everyone realizes this, but when you do invest in the public markets, you're not even investing in a company. All you're doing is buying stock from someone else. So you're not even contributing to the real economy. So why is it that most of us don't have the opportunity to invest in the things that we really care about, to make a positive impact in our own communities, in businesses we love, in real estate that we want to see taken care of and nurtured in our community? So I started to really learn about securities law, and I found out that there were some examples of communities that did raise money from regular folks to do projects. So like there's one called Market Creek Plaza, and that was decades ago. It took them, I think, like over a year to get approval from the California securities regulators to do it, but they did it. And there were other examples. There's a company called Real Goods, also in California, that did solar and like energy efficient projects, and they raise money from their community. So I was like, okay, this is possible, but why isn't it more common? And so I just started to really try to figure out what was going on. And I did discover that the laws made it very difficult. You know, you had to deal with state level filings. It could take forever. And so I did co-found a nonprofit, and we advocated for a change to the law, and we did get regulation crowdfunding in 2016. But we're still struggling a bit to get more people involved. And I came to believe that a place-based ecosystem could really make a big difference in getting more people, both on the entrepreneur side and the community investor side, to really understand what it means to invest in your own community. So I bought a building in Baltimore. I have about 100 investors. The smallest investment amount is $1,000. The biggest is about $400,000. Some are equity investors, some are lenders. I have some money that did come in through donor advised funds, which is charitable money. And it's been a lot of work. It's taken many years to raise this money, and we're still renovating the building. But I'm just so proud that once this building is open, it will be a home where we will teach people how to do community investing, and the building itself has about 100 investors. We'll probably have more by the time we open. And like you said earlier, we will have an exit to community where ultimately we will have more community ownership and control of the space. And we're also working a lot with, Baltimore happens to be a city that has a wealth of worker-owned companies, cooperatives. And so we're working a lot with the local worker cooperatives so that they can be the ones that provide the coffee and the snacks and the retail space and all of that. So it's going to be very community-based once we open.
Yeah, very cool, Jenny. I just think some of the work that you do is so amazing. I love following you and reading, your work. It's funny, I tell people about the stock market that you're not funding a company, you're funding whoever sold you those shares. And, considering that 10%, the top 10 wealthiest individuals own 90% of all stocks, that's who you're funding. So it's not productive. So thank you for all that work to get it done. And I just think that's a real wonderful thing. Now, Lyneir, are you with us here? Okay. You just told, tell us, how did you get Impact Capital to actually listen to what you were trying to say? I know you said you had those conversations with them. What did you actually say? How did you get that capital to listen to you? And if anything changed? You've done this multiple times. What happened from the first raise to this last raise in Minnesota? What changed? So how did you get Impact Capital listen? And kind of tell us your journey too, from the first raise to the last raise.
Yeah, and so what was really cool is the first raise was, as I said, in the shadow of civil unrest after George Floyd was murdered. We were all inside during COVID, and people were like, well, what can I do to make things better? Right? What I remember is there was a guy who wrote an article in the newspaper, in one of the Baltimore papers, and he said, this is interesting, that local people get an opportunity to invest, and it was a reporter that has been known to be cynical, but he said, you know what, I kind of like this. And literally within 3 weeks of that article, 130 local people invested $330,000. Now, go fast forward to second raise. I started doing these meetings in the churches and communities in person. And I remember a little old lady coming up to me and saying, hey, I printed out your offering. It is 92 pages. First of all, we never printed it out. So you're like, oh, it really is. And she said, and I've lived in this community for 40 years. And I have been a renter here. I've rented an apartment. I've never owned anything until I invested $1,000 in your project. So you better do right by me, right? So this comes with a lot of responsibility. And, I always say I measure my comments about return. I'm obviously, again, this is community investment return. We want to, we want to see people earn a financial return. But I measure the expectation. I tell people it's a long, it's a 7 to 10 year horizon. But it comes with responsibility. And then most recently in Minneapolis, fast forward, we now have young people, 20 young people who one of our local philanthropic investors invested $1,000 each on their behalf. And we found a grant that matched their investment. So we now have 20 young people who each have a $2,000 investment in a shopping center we bought. And so that thought of how do you think about generational wealth? I have my best story, just very briefly, is we do quarterly community investor calls. And there was one Saturday morning where a couple of investors got on and said, it was this 11-year-old boy, and he kept getting really close to the Zoom screen. He was asking questions like, "Hey, why can't we have Chipotle? Are we going to get a return? Or what's a rent roll? What's a K-1 statement?" And people were trying to calm the guy down. And what I remember thinking is, that's generational wealth. That 11-year-old kid, that's a Wall Street analyst job. He's talking to a CEO and saying, what about my returns? And what's a K1? And when am I going to get my K1? And then also he's thinking like an owner. That's going to show up 2 decades from now, right? So as we go forward, what we start to see is people saying, I get the opportunity. I understand what having an ownership stake, right? Whether it's $1,000 or $1 million, right? We treat people as we own this, right? You're investing on the same terms as Penny Pritzker or any other high net worth individual or the Kresge Foundation or MacArthur Foundation. That's how we treat local people, in that they have as much of an equity stake, as much of a shareholder type of positioning as anyone else.
Wow, Lyneir, I got to say, I got a little emotional when you told the story about the lady printing it out and how you felt that responsibility. I know I feel that responsibility too, as well. So, and then, being able to get those young folks matching,
18 to 21-year-old, that's amazing, right?
It's really incredible that that you're able to do that. So, thank you for sharing that. And what a great story about the 11-year-old kid. That's a total mindset shift. And yeah, you're right. It's going to be 20 years from now. It's going to be a very different story. So kudos to you. God, I'm still a little emotional from that. That was really powerful. Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to move on now to due diligence here. Jenny, you've built a raise where Impact Capital showed up as a neighbor, but neighbors still have to do their homework. What does due diligence actually look like on a community aligned raise? And what are you and the aligned institutional allocators actually checking before the money gets deployed?
Yeah, it's a difficult question because I think, every single investor has different things that are important to them that they want to look at. And let's be honest, a lot of it is kind of emotional, instinctual, how we feel about the founder, what feelings come up when we meet the founder. And we have to acknowledge that there are biases that everyone has, sometimes unacknowledged biases that people have, especially if they maybe grew up in a more privileged background. Maybe they haven't had the opportunity to live in a lower income community or to interact with a lot of people of different racial backgrounds, class backgrounds. And so unfortunately, that is part of the reason why so much money continues to be invested only in businesses and real estate projects that are led by white men with wealthy backgrounds, educational privilege. And so I think what's so exciting about bringing the community in to be part of the due diligence process and part of the decision-making process of what are we going to invest in, it's so exciting because you're bringing in a much more diverse set of eyes to looking at what is a good investment. And so part of what we're going to do at the Mulberry, and what I know Devin's been done in the past and I've done in the past, is bringing together groups of people to make investment decisions and trying to make that group really diverse. Because when we have a group of people that, have come from many different backgrounds and maybe are a customer of the business that they're considering investing in, or they know their cousin or their stepmom or whatever, you just can bring so much more wisdom to the table. And I do believe that, you've heard the term wisdom of the crowd. I think there is evidence for that. If you look at the data that has been gathered on crowdfunding, the rate of failure of businesses that are backed by the crowd is actually lower than the ones that are backed by VCs. So, and I just love the idea also of having some institutional investors coming in as well, because they have a lot of great tools and skills and resources that allow them to do some due diligence that they can then, provide that information to the crowd to help the crowd also make a better decision. So it kind of goes both ways. The crowd helps the institutional investors, and the institutional investors help the crowd make a really great decision.
I agree.
Yeah, I love that, Jenny. My own belief, and this is backed up by a lot of data, is that we all have unique insights and opinions. And if we can aggregate all of these unique inside opinions in kind of this independent, decentralized way, we can really harness this collective intelligence. And, I use it in my own practice. I think it's vital as far as making, any kind of real decision with weight. So I think that's a really great point that you brought up there, Jenny. Now, Devin, a little bit different due diligence question. You've seen due diligence done across, and you've done it across hundreds, probably maybe thousands of deals. Could you compare what impact allocators typically have to go through to conduct their due diligence on these bespoke deals, and what that looks like if they were performing due diligence on a Reg CF impact community raise?
Yeah, I made some old school impact or angel investments back in an earlier life when my work paid a little better than it does now. And the interesting thing about all those investments I made as an angel, I lost all my money in every single deal. And the reason was simple. Poor due diligence, right? Some of those deals were made because I invested in a friend, some because I was relying on someone who was unreliable, and so it was really, literally a zero hit rate. I didn't make a lot of investments, but I made several. It was like 3 or 4, exactly $0 back. In the crowdfunding space, I've had 3 or 4 deals. I think it's up to 6 deals now that I've invested in that have, didn't get a penny back. They've wound it up and they've shut it down. I've made about 100 more that aren't in that boat, including more than half a dozen that have paid me back every dime plus the promised interest and et cetera, 100% plus. And so it is tied very closely to the accessibility of information available for due diligence, right? The SEC requires a Form C be filed. It requires that a bunch of information be readily available on the offering page. And we also live in the day and age of AI. And I know that there are people who are anxious about that. And they think, I don't ever want an AI making a decision for me. No, of course not. Of course not. It shouldn't make the decision for you. But how many hours would it take you to visit 40 websites and read them top to bottom to understand what the mention is of the company you're researching? You could not do it. The offering, the Form C, the average length of a Form C is about 100 pages. So are you really going to take 3 hours to read the whole dang thing? No. And if you're not reading it, what are you missing? And some of the most powerful insights are the gross incongruities. Our screening is getting better and better. It's a problem because our screening is getting to the point where now what we're finding is there's a defect in most new Form Cs filed. And oftentimes material defects. Like one place it'll say we're trying to raise $2 million, that's our cap. And another place it'll say we're trying to raise $5 million in the same document, right? That is a common kind of mistake. And yet, can you imagine anything more material than how much are you trying to raise? Right? And so it's not just inconsequential. People are ignoring. So, yeah, I love AI as an aid to my due diligence so that I'm not relying on what I can do in an hour, right? If we're making small investments, we can't spool up 40 hours of investment, of due diligence on $100 or $1,000 investment. It would make no sense. We couldn't possibly do it. But use AI, and suddenly in 5 minutes, you can gather information that really accelerates your decision-making process and allows you to get down to the nitty-gritty and filter out what really matters. You get in and dig deep around core things like the deal terms, the valuation, and of course the social impact.
Yeah.
Right? Who are you supporting and why? What are they trying to accomplish? More efficient oil drilling? I see some of those kinds of deals. Sometimes less efficient oil drilling. Just the easy stuff. Hey, let's go. Anyway, I don't get very excited about that at all. But we see some great deals, and now we can scrutinize them almost instantly because there's so much information available. It's a great world to be investing in, and I'm convinced that's going to yield good returns. Who am I to promise? I can't promise anything, and I'm not selling anything. But I think you can get good returns in this marketplace. And I want to make a little point here. Paul and Jenny and Lyneir, we talk about an expectation of patient capital and slow capital when we talk about people who are wealthy and institutions. And I think that's a valid point. It is not, and Lyneir talked about this in another way, right? When we're talking about community investors, we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to earn good money. If you're making $62,000 a year in your household, you got 2 kids and a spouse that you're supporting, you shouldn't be making discounted investments. And I would argue you don't need to. You can have lots of opportunities for impact and still get a return that would be comparable to what you can get in the stock market, which is your best alternative. Right? If you have $100 or $1,000 to invest, the stock market's the best place you could go, and you can match that by investing in a deal like Lyneir is doing or like Jenny's doing. Lots of opportunities. Anyway, I'm off my high horse.
No, Devin. I loved it, and my own experience mirrors a lot of what you just said. And I'm going to say this about AI: don't use it as an answer machine. Instead, use it as a thinking partner, thinking substrate. Put your ideas in it and start asking questions and let that grow. I think, with these bespoke deals, that filings aren't public, it takes weeks. And so a lot of these impact allocators, they're spending all their time on one deal. Within 3 weeks through Reg CF, 50, 100 deals we could have already looked at? I mean, the difference is incredible, and so the speed at which and scale really that Reg CF offers for impact allocators is unprecedented that anything we've had before, including using tools like AI. I was nodding my head the whole time you were talking, Devin, because it's kind of my experience too of what you're saying, and really how we can start funding these companies that really need funding, and using community as that signal of also looking at. What I also do is not just the Form C with AI, I will also put the Form C, but I'll scrape the comment section as well, because sometimes these comment sections on WeFunder, they're asking some really great questions. I'll throw that in there too. And now it's like, now I can start asking, well, why did this say? It's really an incredible tool to use to have that kind of due diligence factor. And if impact capital isn't using Reg CF, or they're missing out. That's really, it's just that simple. They're missing out on quality deals, getting good returns, especially in a lot of these Reg A pooled funds. I've been getting fantastic returns, north of 10%. So that's something. Real estate crowdfunding also, it's highly underutilized, and that's productive as well. Some people don't maybe think that it's as impactful that it really actually is, because you kick in that local economic multiplier effect of hiring electricians and plumbers, kind of to improve a lot of these local homes. So yeah, there's a lot of great opportunities out there. So we don't have a ton of time left, but let's kind of let's close the loop on where we started. You know, everyone watching already answered in their own head what they would do with $100,000 in their own community. If a large impact capital allocator is watching us right now, what can they do to use the residents of the community as a capital source and not just a destination? Lyneir, let's start with you. And real quick, if you can do a minute answer, that would be great.
Yeah. Great. No, mine is very brief. Look, there are now a number of fund managers who are looking for larger impact investors, $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, to empower the work to go out and do the $1,000, $2,000, community raise. And so, if they are, as I said, impact first investors, there are now a number of vehicles. We're one, but there are other people who could really, scale their work with another $2 million or $5 million in impact capital. It's following. We now have evidence that the crowd is following us. The community is endorsing this program and endorsing this approach to the work. Now we need the impact capital at scale to, scale the impact of the work.
Jenny, love that answer. Yeah, I agree 100%. Jenny, could you add something to that?
Yes, I mean, there's so many ways, but I do want to announce a specific project that we're launching right now. I'm working with, it's really exciting, and I want everyone who has a donor advised fund or likes to use their funds for their charitable funds to support investment in small businesses and social enterprises. So working with Babby Jacobs and a nonprofit called Realize Impact, we have designed, and actually Devin was involved in figuring this all out as well. We have created a tool. Unfortunately, it's not right now available, but very soon we will have a page that you as a donor can go to. You can make a donation out of your donor advised fund or just from any money you have set aside to make charitable donations. And that money that you donate will go into a pool that will then be invested in a regulation crowdfunding campaign that you choose. You'll see what the campaign is. And it will be businesses that are quote unquote disadvantaged, underrepresented entrepreneurs, because that's the only way that we can make a donation into an investment. It has to have a charitable purpose. But there's so many amazing small businesses. We think our first one is going to be a really successful restaurant in Baltimore. And by the way, not only will you get to invest in that business, I'm guessing there will be some perks involved as well, so you can eat some of their delicious food. So yeah, we're so excited to be launching that soon. So definitely keep your eyes open for that. Follow Realize Impact. They're an amazing nonprofit. If you don't know about them, they make it so much easier for people to take charitable funds and turn it into impact investment.
Is there a website people can go to or something along those lines?
For now, just go to Realize Impact.
Okay.
And I'm sure that when I will make sure that they promote the first one that we do together on their website. You can also go to Maryland Neighborhood Exchange, which is a crowdfunding site for Maryland residents.
Lyneir, quickly, how can people find out about what you're doing?
Thank you. Yep, it's chicagotrend.com, chicagotrend, trend.com. As I mentioned, we formed our first investment vehicle. We're still trying to raise another $3.5 million to close that out. We're about to buy a new shopping center in Wilmington, Delaware, something else in Chicago. So we're continuing to do this work in across the country. But chicagotrend.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just Lyneir Richardson on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to tell you more about the fund, about our strategy, about the markets we're in, and about the impact we're having.
Awesome. Devin, I'm going to give you the final word here on how can impact capital use our communities as a source and not a destination.
Well, I think there are some really exciting ways. The closer you are to philanthropic capital, I think the best utilization I've seen is the city of DC paying for the fees on SMBX, right? I think you and I both invested in some of those deals. And, so that meant the entrepreneur got 100% of the proceeds because the fees were covered by, and it meant that the municipality, in that case, and it could be a foundation, it could be a wealthy individual could do this, for the sake of 5% of the money, they multiplied that 20 or, well, not quite 20-fold because it was 6% fee, but still almost 25 or 20-fold. That's a pretty remarkable thing. So you could say, okay, I put in $100,000, a drop in the bucket for a foundation or a municipality with a multi-billion-dollar budget, and we got nearly $1 million or $2 million invested in the community, right? I mean, that's a gonzo use of capital. If you're more impact investing focused than philanthropy, you can do a similar thing, which is just to look for opportunities to invest alongside the crowd, right? And those opportunities exist all day long. And if you're an angel investment group like the Investors Circle, we've been working with them to try and figure out some more formalized strategies for helping their portfolio companies leverage their involvement as angel investors with credibility and institutional gravitas to say, hey, crowd, we backed this deal, you should take a look. Right, so there are lots of exciting ways for us to take a look at and doing that, and I'm excited to continue working with impact investors across the country to help find new and better ways to do this.
Can I throw one more thing in? Sorry.
Please do.
Sure.
I just wanted to mention if you are an underrepresented entrepreneur, a person of color coming from a struggling background, a social enterprise, please do get in touch with me about this opportunity to get that match from donor funds through Realize Impact, because we can help you get that set up as well. So
that's wonderful. Yeah. Last thing I want to say is, if you're an impact allocator, think about how you can include the community in your capital stack, in your investment deal. And there's something called a side-by-side raise that has it's already a pathway for that to happen. So look into that. The Crowdfunding Professional Association just did a wonderful webinar detailing a side-by-side raise. And I think that's how impact capital can get their feet wet with this community co-investing model.
Fantastic. Well, Paul, I'll step back into the role of SuperCrowd26 host. Great job. Thank you very much for conceiving this conversation. Thank you for bringing together this incredible group. I mean, to be on the stage with the three of you, I'm honored to be included in this conversation. I'm grateful for the work that you've all been doing. I'm excited to continue working with all of you going forward in various ways. So thank you all for the time you spent. I want to invite you, encourage you to pop into the Zoom room. This is, let me just drop that chat in. But we've got this, executive access, executive lounge set up. And there are folks in there that want to talk to you about the amazing conversation we just had. I can't really be in there. I'm in there, but I'm not in there. So pop in there and represent for a few minutes on your way before you get to your next thing. And now I'm going to, and we are going to do a networking session at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. So even if you haven't purchased your executive access ticket yet, it is not too late. You can still get an executive access ticket and still join those of us west of Jenny. We're going to be up doing networking this evening. Paul's in Hawaii, so he's going to have an easy time of joining us. So I think it's going to be a great conversation. It's not too late. Join us there. Okay. Jenny, thank you very, very much. Paul, thank you very, very much. Lyneir, thank you very, very much. You guys are great. I get to shift gears now and announce more PurposeBuilt 100 winners. This is my favorite thing that I've ever had the opportunity to do. It is just really a fun thing. You'll remember that we finished the overall ranking. We went through 100 to 51 earlier today. We're now going to do 51 to 30. 51 to 30. So hang on to your hat. So you'll remember we left off with Elemento Health. Now, you'll recall this is a company that is doing healthcare stuff at the point of delivery, right? So that to reduce medical mistakes that lead to thousands of unnecessary deaths every year. The founder, his story is that he lost his a loved one to that when he was a child and devoted his life to becoming a doctor and working on this. And today it's being manifested in Elemento Health. So this is a great example. Okay, so moving on to the news. Number 50 is Hempatexture. Hempatexture, again, they were on the list of the environmental solutions. So they show up on 2 lists. They are a remarkable company doing carbon negative insulation, replacing fiberglass, and they've raised capital from the crowd. So there are a lot of people who are watching and say, hey, I own a piece of that. Well, congratulations to you as well as to Maddie and the team at Hempatexture for the success that they're having. Uhori Bank, Uhori Capital is community banking for long-term well-being. Congratulations to them. Cleartronic, crisis communications for first responders. I mean, my heavens, in this day and age, we see so many, wildfires burning around the world now. It used to seem like that was a thing in the United States. Now it's everywhere. Places that when I was a kid didn't have forest fires. Here in California where I live now, didn't have them when I was young. It was very, very rare. Now it's, it's wildfire season right now, and it's something that we're, keenly aware of. So being able to have that crisis communication is vitally important. 29 Bison, another multiple list player, human capital diligence for better deals. 29 Bison was on 2 lists, the Women Founders list and on the overall list. So congratulations to 29 Bison. Next Gen Scientific. This is an amazing company that is developing both drugs and nutraceuticals, that is nutritional supplements, all from plants, focusing on using plants as the tool, and they're making great progress with drugs well into the development cycle. Much of that now can be funded from their nutritional supplements business, so it really is an appealing investment for those who have an opportunity, and it is right now raising from the crowd. KingsCrowd, our friends at KingsCrowd. Oh my gosh, Chris Lestrino is the CEO. Brian Belay is participating in the program, and I consider Brian a dear friend. The team at KingsCrowd has been working to make private markets transparent, building tools and resources, especially for crowdfund investors like me. I use it all the time. I endorse their incredible work. Great company. Congratulations to Chris and the team, Brian and everyone else. We're happy for you. Number 45, the top half now of the PurposeBuilt100. My Panda, again, a 2-list winner. My Panda, number 44, is created an app to help people find the help they need and give the help they need around the house, neighbor to neighbor. This is a neighbor to neighbor kind of project. Very, it's a wonderful community building tool. Gorilla RF chips extending wireless connectivity. That's another great one. Zeo Energy, a solar company, for residential solar. Congratulations to our friends at Zeo Energy. And there's our friend. We just finished moments ago with Lyneir. Congratulations, Lyneir. I see Lyneir is in the executive access room. Everybody slap him on the back. We've got Lyneir is number 41 on the list. And the Trend, Chicago Trend, they're doing incredible work. Just an absolutely incredible work building community. If you missed that session, be sure to replay it, because Lyneir's work is making a profound difference. Peak State Coffee. We had Danny on the show earlier today. Shared some great stories about staying mission focused, and they're developing coffee with genuine health benefits. The point he made is it's easy to forget to take your vitamins, but nobody forgets to drink their coffee in the morning. And so making coffee healthier is a key mission. But, he started out and still does, travels to a lot of farmers markets. But that, he got his start by converting an old van to kind of a camper and taking his product to farmers markets around the country. Now he's in 50 retail stores, growing and growing. Peak State Coffee. Congratulations, Danny. We're happy for you. Vaxart, oral vaccines for simplifying global immunization. Holy Toledo, think about all the shots we could eliminate if we could just do oral vaccines for things. I mean, what an innovation, what an important step forward. Number 39 on the PurposeBuilt100 list. River Financial, a 2-list winner, one of the biggest companies on the list, and here on the overall list, still ranking high. That's an impressive element to be in the top half of the overall list, calculated on a percentage basis, and also be in the arithmetic growth list, the big impact players list. Kudos to our friends at River Financial. Marimed, cannabis brands with community stewardship. I think we've got 3 cannabis companies on the list this year. Number 36, Mission Enrollment. We had Elisa on the show, on the program earlier today. It looks like she's not in the executive lounge any longer. She was in there for a long time chatting with folks. But number 36, a 2-list winner. She is also, not surprisingly, at this high up on the list here. She was also on the Women Founder and CEO list. Congratulations to Alyssa for her accomplishment. Koji Consultants, another 2-list winner. We have yet another woman CEO and founder who is accomplishing great things, scaling rapidly. Number 35 for Koji Consultants. Healthy Extracts. This is precision wellness through nutraceutical innovation. Healthy Extracts. Number 34, congratulations to Healthy Extracts. And our friends at Start Engine. Holy Toledo, this is the only crowdfunding platform, bona fide crowdfunding platform on the list. Start Engine made the list this year. Really kudos. This is a reflection of some of the innovations that they've been making to grow the business beyond regulation crowdfunding, and it's paying off for them in big ways. So Start Engine is helping to create crowdfunding capital for everyday investors, and of course funding all kinds of great companies that have a variety of social impacts. It's really an impressive thing. Number 32, gridless power. Solar batteries replacing gas generators. There's not much I love more than this idea of helping people move beyond using fossil fuels for powering stuff. And so replacing gas generators is just one of my favorite themes. Ground floor lending. Real estate investing open to everyone. In the last session we just had, Paul hinted about this one. I think Paul is an active investor in ground floor and really speaks highly of them. Congratulations to the team at Ground Floor Lending. Number 30, Momentum Coffee. Jenny just mentioned that these are folks that she knows. This is a double winner. Nikki is the founder and CEO, and she runs this business. Kudos and congratulations to her and her team for being 2-list winners, and number 30 on the list. So we're going to stop there. Holy cow, I'm getting so excited. I'm having too much fun, but we'll come back to share more. We'll do the 20s here in a little while. So don't worry, we will be back. We're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we've got another PurposeBuilt 100 winner who's going to be on the show, and she's going to tell us about her amazing business and the lessons she's learned from growing a purpose-built, mission-driven business, sticking true to that purpose and mission. She's an inspiring CEO. You do not want to miss 1 second of this.
Raising capital, it's not just marketing.
It's securities law.
Most deals, they don't fail because of the returns that are offered.
They fail because of compliance mistakes.
And that's what we do.
Every day, we help entrepreneurs raise money the right way.
Before problems ever start. If you're raising capital,
talk to crowdfunding lawyers first.
Digital Niche Agency is the top investor acquisition agency. DNA has helped founders raise over 9 figures via regulated investment crowdfunding with a 3-pronged strategy using digital advertising, content marketing, and strategic outreach. Book a call today.
The CFPA advocates and advances the regulated investment crowdfunding industry. This October, join founders, investors, platforms, and policymakers in Washington, D.C. for the Regulated Investment Crowdfunding Summit. Register now at ricsummit.org.
Behind today's biggest crowdfunding raises.
The leading CPA firm for Reg CF, Reg A, and Reg D compliance.
Trusted.
Experienced.
Set apart.
Eureka! How can I save money on a patent? That's it. Menlo Park Patents.
$50 shareholders can quickly become 5,000. One raise can get you there. An equity stock transfer is built for that scale. Learn more at equitystock.com.
Alrighty, welcome back. Karen, I'm excited to introduce you. I hope you'll turn your camera on. There we go. Our next guest survived melanoma while pregnant with twins, then thyroid cancer a year later, went gluten-free during recovery, and flatly refused to give up great beer. So she made her own. Karen Hertz is founder and chief brewista of Holiday Brewing, the leader in gluten-free craft beer and the only certified woman-owned brewery in the United States. A decade at Molson Coors, an MBA, and gold medals at the Great American Beer Festival qualify her as an expert. Please welcome Karen Hertz. Karen, we're thrilled to have you here. Welcome.
Hi, Devin. Thank you for having me. I don't think it's a coincidence towards the end of the day. You got the beer lady on, so I'm here. I'm here. It's almost happy hour, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I'm wondering if I can start out with a video I want to share with everyone. If it's okay,
Please.
if I share my screen.
Yeah, go right ahead.
We'll get that going. All right. Let's see if I can get her going here. Doesn't seem to want to share. The struggle is real. I might be able to do that. Okay, I'll try one more time with share screen. It wasn't having it, but we'll try. We'll give it a whirl. Here we go, maybe. All right, let's do that. And then I will go here. Are we good? Can we see that? Great. We'll get it going. Let me know if you can't hear it once it gets rolling. Okay. We will try one other thing. Then let me go to here. I have a backup just in case. Let me try this and we'll go from there. How about that? Okay. Well, sure. Let me quit sharing. Okay.
An
NYU study shows that 30% of the US population is gluten-free. For those who are gluten sensitive or gluten intolerant, having a cold, refreshing beer has often been out of reach. But we have changed that. I'm Karen Hertz, the Chief Brewista and founder of Holidaily Brewing Company, and we are on a mission to be the leader and obvious choice for gluten-free beer in the US. The Holidaily story began as a combination of my education, my work life, and my personal life. I have an MBA in entrepreneurial studies, and I worked at Coors for nearly 10 years. And then I ran into health issues. I am a 2-time cancer survivor. After surgery and radiation for both melanoma as well as thyroid cancers, I was told to cut gluten out of my diet. Being gluten-free meant I couldn't socialize the same way as everyone else. Rather than settle for marginal options, I worked to create the world's best gluten-free beer. Fast forward to today, and Holidaily is a fast-growing, better-for-you lifestyle brand. We brew 100% certified gluten-free beer that actually tastes like beer. As the only certified women-owned brewery in the US and one of very few certified gluten-free breweries in the country, Holidaily is on a mission to make 100% gluten-free, 100% real beer for everyone. The definition of Holidaily is to make every day a holiday. Let's make the most of every day. Cheers. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Yeah. Well, great. I have a little bit of an update from the video. It's a little bit outdated. We're now in actually 13 states in the Western United States, and we do have some announcements of additional places we're going to distribute to. So please follow Holidaily to learn more as we make those announcements. We are, as Devin said, one of the PurposeBuilt 100 winners, and I am just so honored to be a part of today. And what I was planning on doing is really talk about why being purpose-built is so important today in an industry or even just in business where technology seems to be really, making things harder and there's a lot more competition. I think a lot of people believe the story of Holidaily really is about beer, and it's actually about a group of people that were overlooked. And most entrepreneurs or businesses ask themselves a set of questions really around a market. How do we be better? How do we take up competitor space within the market? And what I want to challenge everyone to start thinking about today, and something that Holidaily has done from the beginning, is ask questions more about who's being overlooked, who's being left out, who's being excluded, maybe from a product or service, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And when I think of it, I think of a pie chart. We talk about business all the time with pie charts, right? And you want a bigger piece of the pie. And that's how traditional business or a lot of entrepreneurs think of starting a company. And what I want some of the questions to really start happening is turn your business rather into taking a bigger piece of a pie into actually making the pie itself bigger. And so for us, how that works is not only for Holidaily, but we're making beer as a whole bigger, and we're making it bigger and better for our partners. So when we distribute beer, we have to utilize wholesalers and distributors, and we also often work with retailers, right? Well, so when I go to approach a distributor, I go in and I'm not like, hey, you have a portfolio of 45 IPAs, here's another one, and we're going to take some of your sales from these other IPAs. Instead, I get the opportunity really to go in and say, hey, you have 45 great IPAs. There's 40 million people in the US that are adults that are looking for a gluten-free beer. We have one for you. Let's make your pie bigger. And I get to do the same for retailers. I can go to them and say, you've got a great beer selection, but you're actually missing out on a big portion of the population that is reducing gluten from their diet. And I have a product that can fill that gap for you. So what we're doing is we're creating a market and actually making the beer market bigger for our partners. And it's helped fuel our growth over 10 years. When you talk about entrepreneurship, people always ask you, what problem are you solving? And for me, back in the day, the story shared, I really had health issues and had to adjust my diet. And for me, it was a dietary problem in the beginning. But once I got through finding substitutions and different things I could eat or try, eventually there were things I couldn't find, and it became a participation problem. I couldn't participate in traditions and events and different things that I wanted to be a part of. I like having a beer when I après ski or at a tailgate party, and that was no longer an option for me. And so really that was what defined the problem. And out in the industry or in terms of the consumer base, for big companies, it wasn't big enough, or there's a reason they overlook some of these groups, right? And it ultimately comes down to three different things. One is the group's too small. They're really out to move, major amounts of either product or provide services that are very streamlined for a bigger audience. Sometimes adding something like this is too complicated. They've already got their systems in place, technology in place. Otherwise, it's just, it's not worth it to them. But a company that did a really great job in my industry of taking advantage of this was Athletic Brewing. So if anybody has heard of Athletic Brewing, they are an entirely non-alcoholic craft brewery. They make a variety of all different kinds of beers, and they're all entirely NA or non-alcoholic. And this is a piece of the beer industry where brands might have had one. They would have had one beer. They just pretty much ignored this segment. They didn't put any innovation behind it. They didn't put any marketing dollars behind it. And this little company down in the background really saw this opportunity. They saw that there was additional market share not being had, and they built a craft brand entirely around that group. Now, fast forward, and, Athletic has a powerful force within all of beer, and they've expanded the reach and the consumer base of beer drinkers. So, they're a great example in our industry. But I was thinking as I was preparing this of other companies that have done similar. It's not always, just beer companies. And some of my favorite companies that have, done a similar model to this. Airbnb is a great, version of this. They didn't build new houses or new hotels. They actually solved the problem of inventory and access to spaces you want to rent on vacation or maybe a work trip. Uber is another great example. They didn't buy more cars. They figured out how to deal with the bigger problem, which was, again, inventory, maybe a work trip. You just want to ride. You don't need a car rental. Warby Parker, in terms of their glasses, they solved problems of affordability and convenience, didn't just make glasses that are better. And then Spanx is another one. It wasn't, better pantyhose. They were solving other issues and problems that people had. So really, I think these crowds are big enough to be an entrepreneur and build a company. And then it turns into a movement. It turns into a much bigger segment or even your own market. And an example of what Holidaily has been through, when I started Holidaily and we would do beer tastings out in the market, I often would approach customers and say, hey, do you want to try a beer? And then later I would tell them, oh, and by the way, it's gluten-free. Where now gluten-free, the rhetoric around gluten-free, this community is really building. And I can start with, hey, I've got a great gluten-free beer, and it's an added bonus. People are really excited to try a gluten-free beer. And so that's just how, this smaller niche is turning into more of a movement. And I know a lot of SuperCrowd26 is focused on investment and crowdfunding. And I think all of this rolls into that as well, because people are not just investing in businesses anymore. They're actually investing in communities. And what we've done in our 10 years is really built a gluten-free community around us. We've done some unique and different things. We've built a relationship with a company that's called Celiac Cruise, and they actually rent out cruise ships and make them entirely gluten-free. They sail all over the world, and our beer is the official beer of the Celiac Cruise. So through that partnership, we've also made partnerships with the Celiac Disease Foundation, and we've done a lot of marketing, promoting, and just friendship and community building with influencers within the gluten-free and better for you space. But what has come of all of that and building that community is we've actually found great investors for our company. And they're not just investing because we are this growing brand, but it's because they really believe in the purpose and the mission of Holla Daily. And I think when we go out looking for investors, whether it's crowdfunding or any other style, intuition says, oh, the wider the net I cast, the better. But I would actually argue that the more targeted and more purposeful net or target of people that you go after in terms of being investors in your company, the better. Because what's happened for us is not only do we get a great group of investors that truly believe in our brand and reinvest in our brand, but they have turned into evangelists for Holla Daily. And we've actually utilized these investors for ambassadors in our brand. And an example is we get into Trader Joe's in Southern California, and I can email our investors in Southern California and say, hey, head in, buy a 4-pack of Blonde. If you don't want to buy one, at least just go tell the manager, thank you for carrying our beer. Or if we're launching a new brand and we're doing a new social marketing, program, we ask them to share it and really build traffic around that program. So I think, really focusing on a targeted group that believes in what you believe in will bring you investors. And then those people actually turn into this army of ambassadors that are out there for you. So I would challenge you to really think about utilizing the purpose to target the best group of investors for you. Ultimately, I really want to finish with just having this purpose and being a purpose-built business actually creates differentiation for you. In a world where technology is exploding, right? We're seeing AI. I think being able to cut and paste businesses and business plans is easier and easier, and you can even do it better. But here's what I want to challenge really everyone to do is stop competing in a market and really start creating additional markets. And as I was in school and I was in my MBA program, the biggest lesson that I learned wasn't you have to be everything to everyone. It really was be the very best at one thing. And I've, really focused my team and our company on building and being the very best gluten-free brewery in the country and staying focused on that. And that's really helped us to grow. And I think it ultimately feeds in not only to, growing a great company, but building a great investment community as well. And that's what I got.
That's great. Thank you, Karen. I really appreciate you sharing those profoundly important insights. Congratulations on being a PurposeBuilt 100 winner. We're happy for you.
We're honored to be part of it. Yeah.
Well, thank you very, very much. We appreciate you. I encourage you to pop into the executive lounge there. We've got people in there who'd love to meet you and talk to you. So thank you very, very much for being with us. I'm going to announce a couple more of our winners right now. I'm going to rip off 10 more. So let me quickly jump to that. Forgive me, I'm a little discombobulated. Long 3 days, but this is so fun. My good golly, we are just, there isn't anything much more fun in this world than celebrating social impact at scale. And that's what we're doing all day today. And, we've really been gearing up for this and starting it for the last 3 days, really. So, let's see here. So we talked about Momentum Coffee, number 30 on the list. The next on the list, number 29, Liquid Piston. This is reducing the emissions from gas engines by making them radically more efficient. NEIF, a 2-list winner, is on the environmental winner list, and also now number 28 on the overall list. BabyQuip, a 2-list winner, number 27. This is led by a woman that is the founder and still the CEO. This business is really scaling quickly. They raised from the crowd. We're excited to congratulate them on their victory. Revalue, number 26. We had Michelle, the CEO, on earlier today. I want to congratulate the Revalue team. Number 26. Wow, we are getting up there now. That is an impressive thing to think that they're scaling, mission-driven, values-focused financial advising at that level, scaling that rapidly. That is impressive stuff. Number 25, Caladrius Therapy. Jesse, of course, a 2-list winner. The CEO is a woman, a young woman. I shouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it. It's just remarkable what she's accomplished in scaling an old-fashioned business. How long have people been going to therapists? Generations, and they go to the office and they do it, and that's exactly what she's doing. And yet, by delivering values-aligned therapy, she's doing it better, faster, and oh my gosh, congratulations, Jesse, on your accomplishment there as a 2-list winner. Neighborhood Son, 2-list winner, environment, and also number 24 on the overall list. Healthy Cell, number 23. Congratulations to the team there. Pulse for Good. This is a Utah company. Having deep roots in Utah, I'm excited about this one. Pulse for Good. Anonymous feedback empowering vulnerable populations. So imagine you're trying to get feedback from the homeless, the community of homeless people that you serve. Golly. They may not feel like they can give you much feedback, and the people they want to give you feedback on may be a filter that never allows you to understand what's going on. So really a super powerful, high-impact business. Number 21, Pivotal Health. This is a healthcare tech company that is delivering healthcare at the right to homes. This is old school house calls. Really very exciting. Congratulations to them. They also raised capital from the crowd. Number 20, Vireo Growth. This is Vireo Health, another health tech company. Lemonade, the insurance company that they were on the big impact list. So think about this. This is their number 19 on the overall list and on the big impact list. That is really an impressive achievement. SA Expeditions. This is a great company that is doing exciting things with more environmentally friendly expeditions. And then Hylio does ag drones that reduce chemicals by using precision delivery. That's exciting. AquaCycle, holy Toledo, triple winner. This is a triple, this is what do they call that in hockey? A hat trick, right? So we got, this is one of our 3 hat trick winners, woman-led, environmental, and overall 3-list winner. Congratulations to AquaCycle. Number 16, number 15, Dyna Resource, responsible gold mining. Let's emphasize the responsible, but growing quickly. Number 14, holy Toledo, Airthium. This is the heat pump energy solution. They're on the environmental list as well, and growing very rapidly. Look at that, number 14. Number 13, Netlist. This is high performance memory powering data centers. BioLargo, clean tech, tackling PFAS and water contamination. And number 11, Guided Therapeutics. This is non-invasive early cervical cancer detection. Really fabulous technology here. I'm going to stop now, and because I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, who is another PurposeBuilt 100 winner. I'm so glad we've been able to kind of stack the deck with PurposeBuilt 100 companies today. And our next speaker is just like so many of them, an amazing guy doing amazing things. Let me bring Matt onto the stage here. Our next speaker spent decades on Wall Street. Merrill Lynch, Solomon Smith Barney, Houlihan Lokey, watching smaller investors get shut out of the best offerings, so he built the fix. Matt Venturi is founder and CEO of ClearingBid, the world's first IPO network designed to open initial public offerings to everyone with true market-based pricing and equitable allocations. He calls it equal opportunity investing. NYU Stern MBA and a genuine reformer's instinct qualify him as a PurposeBuilt 100 expert. Please help me welcome Matt Venturi. Matt, welcome. Thrilled to have you here. Oh no, we're not there. We'll just unmute you. There you go.
Here we go. It just popped up a little.
Yep, there we go. Sorry.
Everything for the legal world. That's good. Keep those lawyers employed. Full Employment Act.
That's right. That's
Thanks,
right. Got to take care of our lawyer friends. Fantastic. Take it away.
Well, thank you. Thanks for that great introduction. It's so nice to be here and be able to share our thoughts and with an esteemed group. I love Karen's company because my wife is gluten-free, and she's been drinking gluten-free beer at night while I'm still on the wine. So it's a great compliment, and I think all these companies in the healthcare and the environmental areas, it's just, we are so pleased and flattered and honored to be part of the PurposeBuilt 100, and we thank you. It's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to be here too, Devin, so thank you very much. Just as Devin had mentioned, we're really a mission-driven company to provide all investors with the opportunity to truly build wealth. I think after having spent 4 decades on Wall Street and worked on various aspects of the sell side, it's called, from investment banking to sales and trading to syndicate, that I really came to the conclusion and the belief that the average person is just shut out of this process. And we built a platform called ClearingBid to address that. So what I can do is maybe start with we have a little slide presentation here, and I think it's probably the best way to share the visuals. So let me, entire screen, here we go. And can we see this here? If that's working there, make sure that we can see that. I'm going to start off by saying, basically, as Devin mentioned, we truly are providing equal opportunity investing, and it's intended to really allow every investor to have a level playing field, to be able to essentially play along with the big boys, but to be able to participate and build wealth early on. And what we're really doing is we're tackling the IPO process and puzzle first out. Companies and investors really suffer from the current system in that there's limited access. This is really not only retail investors, but a large range of institutional investors who are excluded from this process because they're not on the top list of the bulge bracket big firms' favored institutional clients. It's also limited by poor price discovery. There's a lot that goes on behind the curtain that people really don't know in terms of pricing, and it's a lot of discretionary pricing with no transparency that ultimately results in high aftermarket volatility, the way offerings are priced and they're subsequently traded when they open up. And if you look at the last half a dozen years or so, probably close to $85 billion of money has been left on the table between where an offering, an IPO, gets priced and where it opens up, or what they call the pop, and then specifically where it closes at the end of the day. So in reality, this is money that investors never really get the opportunity to touch. And what we're doing is we're saying, hey, look, if the average pop is 30%, say over the last half a dozen years, that really represents a transfer in value from the issuer who's raising these proceeds to the institutions who have the privilege and opportunity to buy at essentially a discounted price, only in most cases to flip and have those shares then trade in the secondary market, and our average investor here then buying those shares at a much higher price. And that dislocation or relocation is really what we're addressing. And the way to address it is to really pull in the additional selling capacity of Wall Street and that investor base, which is everybody on this call and this presentation. So today, the top 5 investment banks, they represent a little over 80% of all the underwriting volume, all the IPOs that come to market. Now below them, we've got a host of middle market investment banks, and these are really broker dealers. So there's more than 3,200 broker dealers out there who have more than 600,000 brokers who are handling tens of thousands, but not millions, of investor accounts, you and me, whether it's a self-directed account or it's a fully managed account. These brokers are shut out of the process because only the largest institutions and the best institutional accounts of those bulge bracket firms are getting the privilege to buy. So we're saying, hey, look, let's open up this, if you will, the sales force of brokers and another 15,000 registered investment advisory firms who are managing more than $144 trillion of clients' monies who would like to be able to participate in this primary new issue IPO market. So the way we're doing this is we're really turning on the broker network and the RIA network to be able to have access. Now, how do they have access? Well, we follow the same pathways as a secondary market limit order. Think about sending an order to the New York Stock Exchange with the symbol, a number of shares, and your limit price. We do the exact same thing. We follow the pathways of a secondary market limit order, which is a good till canceled order. It's submitted by any investor, institutional or retail, and as those orders get submitted, it begins to reveal the true demand of that offering. What's the investor demand and what's ultimately going to be the pricing? So it creates a broader investor base, including retail investor, and every single order that's submitted is recognized. Every single order that's in that order book has a standing. And in the end, I'll walk you through it. The orders that are in the money are the ones that are going to get filled and get allocations, guaranteed. So what we do is we post on our public website all the information about a company's offering as it comes to market. And I'm going to show you a specific example, but in this case, we've got Runner's Blend, which is an illustrated company. It has the symbol that you see on the public website, the exchange the offering is going to be listed on, the industry it's in, the filing range. This is the on the cover of the preliminary prospectus, the filing range that the investment bankers originally anticipate going out and marketing the offering until the orders come in. We've got the ability to access the prospectus, the ability to see the roadshow, the ability to click on any of the underwriters in the offering, and then as the offering begins to build, the order book, we display that publicly. And I'll show you just specifically what this looks like on our website. So here's our public website. We talk about the IPO network that we've developed, how it works. You can go to the tutorial and take a look at the tutorial and learn a little bit more. We also talk about how we benefit each of the constituents in this ecosystem. Companies get better access, a broader number of investors. You've got the price discovery benefits for better execution. Investors have a level playing field. Everyone can play. Brokers earn commissions. They add assets under management. They have reasons for client engagement. The lead managers, they're able to engage a much larger selling group who gets motivated by the commissions, no commissions paid by the investors, and at the end of the day have the benefit of this price discovery. But what we do is we basically, when we bring an offering to market, and I'm going to show you a company that's actually a partner of ours, if I'm interested in, say, Rapid Addition, I'm going to go to your event page and I'm going to look at the sales memo, which is technically a free writing prospectus of how and what this company looks like. It describes the company's investment highlights, the market opportunity, what kind of business model, use of proceeds, a little bit about the product line. Now, if I'm interested, I'm going to go back to this details page and I'm going to see, okay, here's the filing range, here's the offering size, 5 million shares. Prospectus, I can click on that, roadshow, et cetera, and I can begin to track the price and the volume and the demand of this order book. So right now, this 5 million share offering, when we look at the prices that have been submitted here, the limit prices per share by investors, we can see the dollar volume of the order book, total order book here on the left axis, and we can see the number of orders on the right axis. And right now at $22 is the clearing price at which all 5 million shares could be sold. Think of it like a modified Dutch auction. What's the highest price to be able to sell all 5 million shares? It's 22. There's people bidding higher, but the highest price to clear all 5 million shares is 22. Now, as orders come in, they're time-stamped, and they go into what we call priority groups. And this is a patent feature, which I'll talk about. But as the timestamp is made on your order, you are incentivized to come in earlier in the process and have a timestamp that's earlier in the calendar, because at the end, if your limit price is at the IPO price or higher, you're guaranteed you're getting an allocation. Doesn't matter if you're a widow and orphan or your T-row price. Everybody has the same level playing field. But we're showing everybody real time how this demand is building, what this clearing price is, and what's going to happen is the underwriter is going to modestly discount this a little bit. Maybe they're going to price this at $21 a share instead of the $22 a share, because there's 7 million shares of demand for a 5 million share offering, which means if they price at 21, everybody who bids 21 or higher gets filled. The fill rate is based upon the timestamp in your order. And for the underwriter, they know that they have another, in this case, 2 million shares, because there's 7 million shares of demand at this $21 offer price. That's 2 million shares of excess demand is going to be in the aftermarket bidding this up. So you as an investor pay 21, you know that it's going to at least trade to 22, but probably higher, because there have been people who bid higher. You're going to get the allocations based upon your timestamp and your order, and the underwriter is going to have full visibility in terms of where to price this. So what we're doing is we're really saying at the end of the day, look, let's give everybody the same level playing field, and let's do it in a better way. So we do this by working alongside and with the existing underwriter. We're not displacing the underwriter. The issuer is our client. We're engaged by the issuer to optimize this pricing, but to work with the underwriter. But we provide this public portal in which all information, marketing, and real-time price is displayed for everybody to see in a transparent invest in a transparent basis. As orders come in, they're sent as good till canceled orders, which is a very interesting fundamental feature, because a good till canceled orders is exactly that. It's good unless canceled. It's not a non-binding indication of interest. By example, SpaceX was 7 times oversubscribed because they were all non-binding indications of interest. They had to be reconfirmed the next day on pricing. That really handicapped the underwriters in terms of what's the real demand, why is there such an excess demand, and ultimately what's the real price, and they didn't know. So these are good till canceled orders that are submitted over what we call FIX, which is the protocol with way secondary market orders are sent to an exchange, and it's seamless. It's seamless in terms of how the brokers submit these orders. So the final offering price is determined. We want to make sure it trades up a little bit so the investors get the benefit of some upside mobility, but the issuer is not leaving a bunch of money on the table, and it's not subject to a lot of guesswork. And then finally, we settle, similar to the secondary market. In this case, same-day cash settlement, so there's no execution and settlement risk. So it's really an end-to-end solution for issuers to be able to optimize their pricing, investors to have complete, ubiquitous access, and the ability for everybody to play on a level playing field, such that every order that's in the money is going to get filled, and that fill rate is based upon the timestamp. So what we're doing is we're leveraging the existing rails of the securities industry's system for easy adoption and transparent pricing, and being able to provide the broadest investor participation of any alternative. We do this with seamless order entry, with all brokers being able to have easy access who do the KYC suitability testing and work with the client. We are fully SEC and FINRA compliant and approved, and we have 12 patents in our stable of IP that with 2 more allowances pending, which are going to be, I think, a very favorable benefit down the road. Rapid Addition is our partner. They are a pioneer in the development of advanced electronic trading technology. They have been working on rebuilding our back end, so we have certification and connectivity and scalability and reliability with how these orders get placed. We're also working with Wedbush Securities, who serves as our clearing broker. They're what they call a qualified special representative to be able to send these locked-in trades, which are good till canceled, that end up getting firmed up and finalized. We also, as I mentioned, we're using what we call the FIX protocol. This is the way the secondary market works. So we're applying that to the primary new issue market. And we do it in a way that doesn't require any change in the plumbing or any change in the real estate. Zero adoption friction for brokers and investors. It's seamless. And we have desktop and mobile app access. in order to scale and do it low cost and have it be ubiquitous and everybody to be able to access it. And finally, we built, tested, proven, and deployed this end-to-end trade execution with our partners, including Virtu Financial. Virtu is an exchange service provider. They have connectivity to more than 700 brokerage firms out there. And more recently, Apex FinTech Solutions, which clears for Robinhood, SoFi, Wedbull, a number of other, Webull, a number of firms out there, is a partner, and they have provide access to more than 25 million customers to be able to buy offerings that are accommodated and facilitated with ClearingBid. So in the end, in closing, I'd like to leave you with these comments. 1, we're providing all investors with a level playing field. 2, we want to help more people build wealth and prosperity. That's fundamental. 3, we're enabling more companies to raise capital for growth more responsibly and more ubiquitously. And finally, we're providing greater transparency for fairness and equal access. And truly, the objective is equal opportunity investing so that at the end of the day, everybody has the same chance and opportunity to be able to have a seat at the table and build wealth in this process.
You know, my old investment banker days just come flooding back to me as I listen to you talk about this, Matt. And I remember dealing with some of these challenges. I was the treasurer of a public company 30 years ago, and you know, we watched people do offerings and watched that stock pop and realized that we had this crazy situation where the issuer wasn't getting the money that was available, right, for them. And it just, in a way, it's heartbreaking to think about, especially 30 years ago when so many of the offerings were smallish, right? When $50 million, $100 million businesses were going public. Now it's more typical to see the billion-dollar companies going public. It would be great to have a time when we could return to having markets that were truly efficient and allow for ordinary folks to participate in more deals. So anyway, love what you're doing, Matt. Want to wish you every success. Thank you for being here, and congratulations on being a PurposeBuilt 100 Company winner. We're excited to see what comes next for you and your team.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you, and congratulations to everyone. I appreciate it. Stay safe. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very, very much. I really... I have the best job in the whole world. I get to do this. What could be a better job than this? I am so excited to introduce you now to our next speaker. I'm going to tell you, I don't think I have been more excited to hear any of the speakers than this guy, because he told me, we had a little pre-call, pre-meeting. And he said, I don't think you want to hear from me. What I'm going to say, you're not going to want to hear. And I said, well, I'm excited. And I think you're going to love this. He's going to shake things up a little bit. I'm excited. Our next guest is Masters All-American sprinter, a former professional stand-up comic, and award-winning screenwriter, and holds a master's degree in cognitive psychology from Harvard. And that is all. Before the shoes, Stephen Szaky co-founded Zero Shoes with his wife Lena Phoenix in 2009, starting with do-it-yourself sandals kits. They famously turned down a deal on Shark Tank and built a global brand with millions of customers, a health company disguised as a shoe company. Please help me welcome Stephen Szaky. Stephen, we're just thrilled to have you. Thrilled.
Well, that is a lot of pressure, and I didn't go to Harvard, but that's a whole other story. So let us jump in. So,
I just made it up.
Oh, good. Well, you can make up anything you want. I was the lead architect for the Washington Monument. I used to be the lead singer for ZZ Top. We can keep going if you like.
There we go.
So, and as Devin mentioned, he asked me to say a few words about what got us here. And what can move us, and by us I mean all the PurposeBuilt 100 companies, to move everybody forward. And then there's going to be the announcement of the top 10. And clearly, since I'm doing this talk before the top 10, we are not one of the top 10. but that's okay. So I do want to talk about just how in the business we've created, in all the businesses I've created, because that's all I've ever done. I've never had a job. I just kind of create things and away we go. I've seen how pretty much everything we've been taught about success, however you want to define that, is upside down. It's mythology, it's lies, it's a lot of people making a lot of money trying to convince you of things that aren't necessarily true, and how believing these things and engaging in some of these things can get in the way of pretty much everything you're trying to accomplish. Now, I'm known for going like way off track, so I do have notes kind of right behind me, so if I'm looking around, that's why. Let me give you a tiny bit of context. As I mentioned, I haven't ever had a job, never had a resume. I keep thinking it might be fun to apply for one just to go in for something I'm completely not qualified for and see what happens. I've been an internet marketer since 1992, and Zero Shoes started again 17 years ago on the floor in a corner of a spare bedroom. We're approaching the 9-figure mark. We're a 10 times in a row, we've been in the Inc. 5000. We raised $1 million through an equity crowdfunding raise in 2017. We were the second consumer product company to do that. And we were on Shark Tank in 2013, and we turned down Kevin's offer of $400,000 for us. Just to give you another little context of why we're a purpose-built company, because footwear seems a little odd. This all happened when I discovered that modern footwear companies are knowingly lying about their products, knowingly causing the injuries that they claim to help with. And that footwear instead that lets your feet function naturally, to bend, to flex, to feel the ground, are not only so comfy, you never want to take them off. We literally have had people say they went to bed still wearing their Zero Shoes because they forgot they had them on. But more importantly, when you it's use it or lose it. When you use your feet, they can get stronger, your balance can improve, they can support you for everything you do for the rest of your life. Plus, I also want to share, I forgot to mention, I want to share one other thing at the end of this, which is really the most important probably, and usually ignored and dismissed factor about success in both business and in your life and happiness in your life. And I guarantee some of you will love it, and some of you not so much, even though it's true. And maybe not so much because it's true. So let's get started. Talks like this usually have an acronym, some word, the letters spell out the teaching that we're going to get into to make it easier to learn and deploy. Mine is PCOML. That's right, PCOML. In other words, there isn't one. I don't have an acronym because this isn't about learning something to deploy. It's a totally different game. Don't need to worry about it. It'll be obvious in a moment. Just sit back and hopefully there'll be something in here no matter where you are on the journey and whether you're one of the companies in the PB100 that's a startup, just getting the ball rolling, or you're much bigger than we are and you're just keeping going, which is delightful. But I'm going to use the PCOML anyway. So let's start with the P part. This is where Devin may turn off the microphone. So P is your purpose. And I'm just going to cut right to the chase. Your purpose doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Don't get me wrong. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning. It's what can make a difference in the world. It's why we're all here. But it has nothing to do with your success. Now, I know Simon Sinek, many of you have heard of him, has made millions of dollars saying that a powerful why is what makes companies successful. Think about it, though. Do the math. There are a lot of why companies that fail. Lots. Most of them. And there are a lot of companies that don't have some big why, some big world-changing thing that make billions of dollars, more than you can even think of. In fact, I just thought of this. If you haven't seen the movie Cocktail with Tom Cruise, I don't recommend you see it, but there is one scene in it that's a kind of fun where he's sitting at a restaurant table with whoever the love interest is in that movie, and he's talking about all the billionaires sitting at the table with him. And she goes, "What are you talking about? We're alone." He's not, no, like the guys who make the paper for these little umbrellas that go in the drink, and the guys who make the sticks for the little umbrellas, and the toothpicks and the glasses, and he's just going around the table, and it's just many, many multi-billion-dollar companies that don't have a why. Now, the reason that I suggest, and actually, you know, when you're driving home or next time you're in a car, look around and look at all the things that you deal with on a daily basis that you just ignore, things you're driving on, things you're driving under, things you're driving over, that are huge, huge companies that don't have a why. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't have it, but in fact, Simon uses Apple as an example. Like, they have a big why. But he kind of left out that in the 90s, when one of my best friends was one of the top guys at Apple and they almost went out of business, you know, a lot of these stories about what we need to be successful are just hindsight bias and mythology and survivorship bias. But I bring up purpose as something that isn't the most important thing, or isn't the thing that's going to guarantee anything, because as entrepreneurs, we tend to get a little caught up in our ideas. We know that we're right, even when sometimes we're not, but we know that we're right. And anything that kind of catches your attention and you're trying to push forward, if you're really trying to push the story of like, this is why we need to live, this is why you need to help us, then this is going to sound weird, but that kind of focus actually can narrow your field of vision, almost literally. So you're missing those things that you really need to know, either because they could help you, or more likely things that could be problematic that you'll overlook. I mean, ideally, all you want to be able to do is something really, really simple. And if you do the simple part, then you don't have to worry about trying to push too hard. And here's the simple part. Tell the truth, change people's lives. If you can do those two things, you're on the way. And people will respond to that. But don't worry about trying to push too hard and trying to make people believe in your purpose. They either will or they won't. You will, but again, as entrepreneurs, we love our ideas and sometimes we're a little off base. So just something to keep in the back of your head. I'm going to do this really quickly. I used to ask people who had made a lot of money. No, wait, I'm going to save that for later. Okay, let me move on to the C in my stupid acronym, and that's community. And I want to talk about both external and internal ones. The external one is easy. It's your customers. It's the people who believe in what you're doing. And building a community is a really interesting thing. It's not rocket science, but we just don't think about some of the specific things that work and don't work. So first is, and I'm not saying all these are required, but a fun one is having an enemy. So think about Apple when they first started, IBM was the enemy. And when you have a big enemy and you're a small player, you can have a lot of fun mocking them. Don't treat them like they're big. Make them look like they really should be and are small. This is one way of just engaging people because we like to have our identity tied up with the things that we like and believe in. So you want to engage with your community as much as you can. Have conversations with them, like literally have Zoom calls with them, have parties with them. Listen to what they're complaining about in particular. If their identity becomes even a little tied in with yours, that's going to be really helpful. And one way to do that is be a human being. We like to engage with humans. If you're not good at this at your company, find somebody who is. I do something that sounds crazy. Every buddy who opts into our list gets an email from me, and it looks like it's personal. It's not, but it does say, look, this is me. If you want to reach out and talk to me, here's my phone number. And it has my phone number, like legit. And I will tell you, in the 20 plus years I've been doing this, because I started doing this before Zero Shoes, I get like 3 calls a week that start like this. Hi, this is Steven. Oh my God. And we have a great time because anyone who has the balls to call, it's going to be really helpful for you. But I want to also recommend a book about communities that's hugely important. It's called How Minds Change. And we often think when we have a big purpose, we want to get big, important people involved. They're the ones who are going to make the difference. It's actually not the way it works. The big people that get involved, I mean, there may be 1 or 2, but they're not going to move the needle often. What moves the needle is these small communities with a thought leader or 2 in it. The communities talk amongst themselves. It's a bit of an echo chamber, so it feels like more people are talking about it. And once that community hits about exactly 25% adoption rate for what you're talking about, it pops to like 70%. Get enough of those communities together, that's how things change. Someone's got their mic still on, and if you could look at that and mute it, that'd be great. I can't tell who it is. Maybe Devin can find it. So, quick thing about internal communities, that's your people. Everyone is always wanting to find the best way to hire, and let me just tell you, there is none. Nobody ever gets it right. All companies, I like to say, rise to the level of the neuroses of their founders. So for us, my wife and I, we treat everyone like they're friends of ours. And that has some advantages and disadvantages. But keep in mind that, we want to make people know that. That's one of our things. So we have a profit sharing inspired bonus plan where every quarter when we have profits, everybody in the company, everyone from the warehouse to, and I'm going to do it left to right or right to left, not top to bottom, warehouse to C-level employees, split a percentage of the profit we made evenly because we want them to know that they're all important. The thing about hiring, one thing just to be aware of, people that you bring in that are really good are going to bring their history with them, and you need to find some way to make sure they understand who you are, not their history. Otherwise, it's going to be butting heads. Anyway, so let me move on to the O. This is my favorite thing to break down, which is other people. Everyone loves to say success leaves clues. I'm here to tell you success leaves turds. Things that are left behind on what looks like a path that you do not want to step in. We are, as humans, we're designed to believe things like we know what we want to get because we think it'll make us happy, and we want to find people who've done it seemingly and find out how they did it so we can replicate it. That's just not how it works. Like I mentioned, every book, everything about how you might do it in the past, it's hindsight bias. There was a book, I don't know, about 30 years ago about Harvard Business Review companies who were the most likely to be successful, and 10 years later, 9 out of 10 of them were out of business. So there's not a path. You need to figure it out. That's what you're going to do. And looking at other people, it can just get in the way. Again, it can get you myopic. Like, I don't care how well LeBron James would talk about everything he did to become LeBron James. I, as a 5'5" white Jewish, is not going to, be able to replicate that. Somebody invited me to meet Richard Branson, hang out on his island with a few other internet marketers. I said, why would I want to do that? They said, imagine what you could learn from Richard Branson. I said, it's easy. I would learn. I'm not Richard Branson. And neither is he. If he tried to replicate his life now with what he did then, the world has changed. It's not going to happen. The biggest thing you need to do is really simple. My wife one day complained that she didn't feel like she knew what she was doing. I said, nobody knows what we're doing. No one's ever done it. You just need to figure out what you need to learn, and then either learn that or find someone who knows that, and then we move forward. And she went, oh, I can do that. I went, yeah, you're brilliant. That's the easy part. Okay, let's move on to the M, which is marketing. One of my favorite things. Oh boy, this is a biggie, and the biggest problem is there's frankly more demand for good marketing than there are good people doing marketing. Agencies, I never work with an agency personally because I've said to them, listen, for the 9 things you do, there's only 5 people in the world who are experts at that, and none of them work for agencies. People are going to tell you that you should follow best practices. By the time they're best practices, that means everyone's done them and they probably don't work any longer. Things change. I mean, how many of you are still doing advertising on MySpace? How many of you remember MySpace? Point is that don't look for best practices. Look for things, you can find best practices and try them. Try to imitate things with a little bit of your twist, and then try things that are the exact opposite. Let me give you the best piece of advice I have about marketing. This is what I say to anyone who's pitching me on something that they think could make us money. I go, cool. I just want to know how quickly and cheaply I can find out if you have your head up your butt. Because I can only manage the risk that I'm taking, the money that I'm spending, not what's going to happen at the end of that. And if they say, well, I feel really confident that it's going to work, my response is, yeah, I don't really care how you feel. That's not important to me. If you're just getting started, the most important thing you can do is find the cheapest, fastest way to see how many strangers there are who might believe in what you're doing, and see if you can find a way to get some of them prove it by giving you their hard-earned money. In the old days, we used to, people would run a magazine ad for a product that didn't even exist. You had to clip out a coupon and send it in. And if they got enough checks, they'd make the product. If they didn't, they'd give the money back, and they wouldn't do that. But in terms of best practices and finding the opposite, I'll give you a thing that I do. If I'm looking to hire a copywriter, I say, give me 5 headlines that I could use for an AdWords ad. I'll give you the first one. These are the greatest shoes you'll ever wear. And if they don't come back in the next 4 with something like, my wife said she'd leave me if I wear these, or I beg of you, do not buy Xero shoes, I know they're not going to work for me, because you never know. You just want to test quickly and cheaply and run with what works. Okay, let's go to the E, which is enough. You need to know what the word enough means for both you and your business. Personally, it means how much money do you really need to never have to work again? Not saying that you'll do that, but if you calculate that number, it'll actually really change the way you think about working so hard all the time. And for your business, same thing. Everybody thinks growing is the most important thing. Look, we've grown to, I can only give you a number that we published, over $68 million last year, only because nobody would buy us out all the way up until now. And still they keep moving the goalposts on it. But knowing what that number is really critically important. And again, growth is not the most important thing. If I were smart, I could have changed this a long time ago and done what a friend of mine has done. He has a business that's been stuck at $12 million a year for the last 10 years. Except that because of the way he runs the business, he pulls $2 million out of that every year. So be aware of and know what enough is, and know how that plays out in your life. Quick book to recommend on that, Die with Zero. It will read it repeatedly. Not the most well-written book, but it will change your life about thinking about what's important. I had a quick story, big wake-up call a few years ago. I had cancer in my eyeball. Who knew that was a thing? But having that, it was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, because it helped me realize that as a lifelong entrepreneur who would more happily work, and figure out if my new idea is going to be some big thing, I had been postponing enjoyment until forever. And having this wake-up call, that has changed in many, many ways. And I hope that you don't have to go through something as similar like mine, even though, again, it was awesome, literally. Some people ask my wife, how are you handling, the cancer thing? And she would say, I'm on a roller coaster, but it's hard to stay down because he is so damn happy all the time, because everything just got instantly precious. So don't let everything you're working on get in the way of the preciousness that's out there all the time. Which brings us to our last thing, the L. This is the one that you might not like or you might love, but it's a biggie. And it's the one thing that is most responsible for what's going to happen for you. Luck. It's just luck. End of story. I got hip to this actually from Milos Forman, the late director, film director. Somebody asked him, how do you make a good movie? And he said, oh, making a good movie is simple. It's 90% casting, and the other 10% is also casting. And when I look at what we've done and the other people that I know who've been successful, it's 90% luck. And the other 10%, it's also luck. Oh, but there's a separate 100% that is 90% working your ass off, and 10% hopefully being smart enough or finding someone smart enough who knows how to put out the fire that started overnight, even though nothing changed since yesterday. I'm really well known for asking people who've apparently had what people would think of as great success, how much of your success, most people say, how'd you get there? And then they'll tell a story about how they're responsible for making it happen. But I ask them, how much of your success is due to luck, chance, fate, and things completely out of your control? And then they go on literally for hours about all the crazy things that happened to them that they never could have predicted. That's really why they're there. And that doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. I mean, for me, even being the kind of person who works his ass off or can get smart enough to figure out, what to do next, that's all luck. I mean, I was born to those people in that place at that time and went to those schools and met those people. If I had grown up on the other side of the street from where I grew up, I would have never met the gymnastics coach that I had, who was actually our high school gym teacher, who helped me become an All-American gymnast and changed my life forever. So the reason that I highlight luck is if you really think about all these things that you didn't make happen, even the thoughts that popped up in your head that you didn't make that thought happen, but it showed up and you followed it, for me, it makes things feel a little more open, a little more spacious. It's not depressing. It's a little more grateful. I take care of the things that I feel like I can control. They get smaller and smaller every day. And then we just see what happens. They say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Journey of 1,000 miles is a single step. You take one step and you reevaluate and see where you are, and then you take the next and your next, and you see where it goes. I mean, there's obviously a lot more we could talk about how to plan, how to not plan, knowing what your numbers are and which ones are important, why success can be worse than failure, visualizing, budgeting, a whole bunch of things. So the one other piece of advice I'll leave you before my last line, stay away from private equity. That's a whole other story. But most importantly, given everything I said, if any of it was helpful, you clearly misunderstood me. But most importantly, good luck. Can't hear you, Devin.
You did not disappoint, Stephen. Thank you so much. I love your approach of thinking about this in, genuinely controversial ways. And, I love your message. Success is more a combination of hard work and luck than anything else. So,
And even the hard work. What made you the kind of person that likes, it's willing to work hard when other people are saying, why don't you, go out and have a drink? It's like, no, I got some SEO stuff to do.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on being a PurposeBuilt 100 winner. We're happy for you, thrilled that you could be here, and want to wish you every success as you continue building Zero Shoes.
Thank you.
All righty. I'm now excited to introduce our next speaker. Our next guest has been chronicling this industry since the Jobs Act was still wet ink. Andrew Dix founded Crowdfund Insider in 2012 and built it into the leading news platform covering global fintech, crowdfunding, and alternative finance, a go-to resource for policymakers, investors, and innovators alike. He advises the Association of Online Investment Platforms and participates in the Bipartisan Securities Regulation Working Group. If you want to know where this industry is heading, ask Andrew. Please welcome Andrew Dix. And, I'm excited to have you here because I want to ask you, Andrew, you've been doing some amazing, interesting things.
Thank you for saying that. Well, first I want to say thank you for having me here, Devin. It's good to see you again. And I love what you're doing with SuperCrowd.
Well, thank you. We're having some fun. We are definitely having some fun. Let's talk here. You are, as you follow the news, you're seeing a lot of stuff change. And I think there has been some expectation since this new administration came in, that things would change in the crowdfunding marketplace. And we're 18, 20 months into that administration, and we really haven't seen much change in the Reg CF space yet. But I think there's some things pending. What is your read on what may be coming?
So I think you're spot on right there. The entire industry has been hopeful that with the change of administration, which has been more friendly towards access to capital, that we'd see some movement right away. What I think has happened is the crypto digital asset sector really has sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Now that being said, I do anticipate that we'll see some potential updates going forward once we get beyond the Clarity Act, which they've scheduled a vote for that in the second week of September. And if that gets approved, they will certainly move on to some next items. I remain optimistic, but also there's the possibility that the Securities Exchange Commission does rulemaking to improve Reg CF and maybe even Reg A, and both of those things I'd like to see. On the Reg D side, there is pending legislation that would alter the definition of an accredited investor. I don't know if that's going to make a move in Congress, but that's another thing that's on the agenda for the Securities and Exchange Commission. And I'm pretty hopeful that we're going to see the SEC take action, perhaps on Reg CF, perhaps on Reg A, and perhaps on the definition of an accredited investor.
This is a lot could happen between now and the end of the year. And the Crowdfunding Professional Association has been advocating pretty vocally for a variety of tweaks and changes to improve crowdfunding and make it a little more efficient. Things like clarifying the rules around what you can say to promote an offering. I cringe when the guests on my show violate the rules, and it happens all the time, right? Because the rules are complicated and no one's really actively enforcing them. But that doesn't mean the rule went away. And what if, 5 years from now, an investor comes back and says, "Hey, I was, I pulled up your episode with Devin, and there you are on TV explaining information that shouldn't have been explained." I don't know. Is there going to be a penalty? Could be.
Well, again, yeah, you're accurate. You're spot on. I think that the SEC, this one, the past one, the future ones, they have bigger fish to fry though than going after these smaller offerings, which has seen very few transgressions in its lifespan of 10 years or so. And but you are correct, and the SEC is aware of this. But they also understand that going after a smaller issuer like this will not, win them any favors or gain any fans right now. And again, Paul Atkins, the chairman of the Securities Exchange Commission, he has on his list that he wants to improve access to capital. And I do believe that we may see some movement from the Reg CF and Reg A, maybe Reg D.
Yeah. There's also, and you've been covering this much more closely than I, so I'm eager to get your take on this. But the SEC just published, some draft regs around crypto assets that are not securities. I think that a fundamental principle was if it meets the Howey test, it is a security, and you got to deal with the securities rules. But some crypto assets are not securities, and we propose to regulate them this way. What's your take on that? Is that going to be passed largely as it is? Be changes? What's your read on that?
Yeah, I think the SEC they have their work cut out for them, and I see this moving forward as rulemaking. What they did do is it's called regulation crypto assets, and it's somewhat aligned with Reg CF and Reg A. There's a startup exemption, and then there's a more mature exemption. The startup exemption you can raise up to 5 million, very similar to Reg CF, and the other exemption, the larger exemption, you could raise up to 75 million. There are some interesting characteristics of regulation crypto assets as it stands now. There's actually fewer burdensome rules that apply to Reg CF and Reg A. And I think that's very interesting because what I anticipate seeing are platforms, including broker dealers, that they see this as an opportunity to boost their business, to do side by sides with regulation crypto assets alongside a Reg CF, a Reg A, or a Reg D. And I think that you're going to see a creative period. Who knows how it's going to shake out? But I appreciate the fact that the SEC has taken its time to support innovation, support access to capital, and they're doing something which is in stark contrast to what we saw the previous 4 years, where it was really, well, crypto is bad, and we really don't want people to invest their money in early stage firms because they're going to lose it all. So again, I'm pretty optimistic. The proposal has hit the Federal Register. There is a time period where the public and interested insiders can comment on it. I believe that ends in October, and then I think we're going to see something happening that's going to be pretty interesting. The only downside to that is, as it's rulemaking, another administration, the future administration, can come in and say, well, we disagree with that. We're going to change all of that. This current administration did some of that. If we get legislation, that's more lasting. That's more difficult to change over time. But again, I'm very positive on both sides of the equation, private securities and crypto assets as running in parallel.
This crypto assets rule would it has some obvious intentional parallels to Reg CF and Reg A, but in general, it appears that it is a lighter regulatory path for the crypto assets than for the securities offered under regulation, crowdfunding, or Reg A. The question I have, and you and I talked briefly about this, and you hinted that you think this could end up being good for portals.
Yes.
I was worried that it would hurt the portals. What's your take? How does this help the portals?
Well, I think that the portals, their expertise lies in online capital formation and listing securities offerings where the public can participate. And they can do this online. And that's under the full stack of exemptions, Reg CF, Reg A, and Reg D. For the crypto assets, well, these are given a time period where they become decentralized and they're not securities. But I can see a situation where you have an issuer of crypto who also wants to issue securities. And while the crypto asset side doesn't need an intermediary, and parts of online capital formation for securities does not, I can see it makes a lot of sense where you have expertise and technology combined on a platform, be it a funding portal or a broker dealer, to enable an issuer to pursue both aspects of this. And again, it's very early days. Everybody's still figuring it out. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm because we finally have movement. Potentially we have the Clarity Act being signed into law. We'll find out in September. And we do have this proposal from the SEC. So I think that things are heading in the right direction. And I think it should be very positive for the funding portal and the platform sector of the business.
Some people are, I tend to worry a little bit about the fact that there will be an easier path for crypto assets than there is for securities. and that we'll see capital moving out of that approach, because the crypto asset rule doesn't require the use of a portal. Wouldn't prohibit it, but it doesn't require it like it does for the securities offered under Reg CF. It'll be interesting to see. I sure hope that the portals are able to adapt and take advantage of this and thrive, because I think they play a vital role in the whole marketplace. So it'll be interesting to see. As you,
I like to say there is a good argument for having an intermediary in the process. I do think that the industry overall, they have missed an opportunity to have a seat at the table to say, hey, we should be part of this process. That being said, I still think that they have an edge with their expertise and their technology, and they should be pursuing it. And you do have people who've been talking to the SEC about these issues. And so I don't think it's going to become a question as like, well, one's easier than the other. I do think that people are always going to want ownership, whether it is, debt or equity, or it's some sort of digital asset that's representation of something that's not a security.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Let's step back here a little bit. When we go back to 2012, right, and I was there, kind of brought into this community, I guess genuinely, almost to the day after the Jobs Act was signed, and sort of have been actively involved in the wider crowdfunding communities ever since. When we go back to that 2012-2013 time period, the enthusiasm and expectation was running pretty high.
Yes, it was.
I'm on record as having said things like, in a decade, this is how all securities will be offered. And we're getting closer. Matt Venturi was just here talking about a new approach to IPOs that in some ways is similar to the idea of a portal, right, that allows everyone to have equal access. We're seeing the technologification of angel investing and Reg D offerings as well. So I wasn't totally nuts, but at the same time, Reg CF has not caught fire the way I hoped that it would. And I think you saw it too. It's part of what inspired you to create Crowdfund Insider. If you had to diagnose why it hasn't lived up to Devin's expectations, what would you attribute that to?
Well, that's a pretty long conversation, Devin. I think that starting from the beginning, the initial funding cap of around $1 million was way too small to really be actionable for issuers and for platforms. Can you just imagine how many $1 million funding rounds a funding portal had to do to generate any money? It really made no sense. And it kind of just shows you that we have people making these decisions that have never had experience in being an entrepreneur or raising money for an early stage venture. That was just, really, really very disappointing. Now they did, a few years later, they did raise it to $5 million. I think that was a good and correct move that has helped the industry. There are some people now who want to see it move to 20 million. And that is something that the SEC could do with the rulemaking power like they did to 5 million. And I think that they are inclined to increase the amount. I just don't know how much. That would go a long way. And then, as you've mentioned before, there are certain aspects and characteristics of Reg CF that make it cumbersome. They're a little bit, clumsy requirements. There's been a lot of complaints about the audit requirements. There's certain things that have made the issuance of these securities challenging. And I think those things, they can be addressed. I don't know if they will all be addressed. And I would say the same thing about Reg A. There's shortcomings in Reg A. the qualification process. It takes way too long. You know, a company can go out of business before the SEC decides that it's okay or not to pursue these things. There's, you know, secondary trading for both Reg CF and Reg A is an ongoing issue. Again, I can see some rulemaking or legislative progress on that within the next couple years. So we're heading in the right direction. We're hearing the correct words being said. It's just, you know, we need some traction here from policymakers, and that's either appointed or elected. And that's how you get these things done. You got to keep pounding the drum. You can't say, well, I give up because I tried. You got to keep going at it. And look at what the crypto industry has accomplished in just 2 years after effectively 4 years of stasis. They've really been very, very effective. And I think that the securities crowdfunding industry can learn from that. And we should learn from that. I also think that the securities industry should be partnering with some of these platforms. And you already do have platforms that are doing token offerings and non-security offerings. And we're going to see more of that.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the interesting things about this Reg Crypto Assets rulemaking was that it repeatedly referenced the Crowdfunding Professional Association, 10 different references to the Crowdfunding Professional Association, although it didn't take any of the advice that it got from the CFPA. It's an interesting marketplace, and yeah, I think you know, the crypto community has been amazingly effective. They've had more money to work with than the Reg CF community, and that money goes a long way. It'll be interesting to see what develops. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. You have a fresh perspective that in some fun ways is different than mine. I'm glad that you were here. I'm glad that you were able to share some of your insights. And I want to point out that you have, on an embargoed basis, the PurposeBuilt 100 list. So you have an agreed upon exclusive overnight. So if anyone wants to see the full list published tonight, the only place to go is Crowdfund Insider overnight. So I encourage people to check that out. Andrew, thank you very, very much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Devin. Best of luck.
All righty, thank you. All righty, this is time. Holy cow. Been waiting for this all day. It is time for me to tell you the top 10 of the overall ranking of the PurposeBuilt 100. We got the drum roll. So let's get it started here. This is I've been waiting on this all day. Here, where did it go? I gotta do the screen share. They just don't make enough caffeine, I'm afraid. So we left off at number 11 with guided therapeutics. And so our number 10 winner is, number 10 is Tampon Tribe. And boy, do I love this company. This is a company that is woman-led, an environmental benefit, a health benefit for women, and one of the 10 fastest growing purpose-driven businesses in America. That is really an accomplishment, and they've done most, if not all, of their capital raising from the crowd. So I see this on the list in this top 10 position, and I get really excited. Also, a triple list winner. You know, it's a hat trick company, right? Because it's women-led, so they're on the women-led list. They're an environmental impact company, and they're an overall winner. So 3 lists. Congratulations to Tampon Tribe. Biotricity, remote heart monitoring, catching disease earlier. Congratulations to the team at Biotricity. This is exciting there. AI security robots at ATX, AITX, AI. This is helping to protect people more affordably. And, you know, I live in a community where we need a little bit of protection. So I value affordable protection. Strata, congratulations, number 7. This is a woman-led business, woman-founded and still led by the same woman who's been running this since it was started. They do construction advocacy, management consulting for mission-driven organizations. This is a big deal. We're happy for the Strata team. Congratulations to Amy and the rest of the team. Holy Toledo. Our friends at Zinn find themselves in the number 6 position. This is a delicious drink. Turmeric drinks for inflammation support. I got to tell you, I've had a lot of Zinn, and this, don't get this confused with the Zinn vaping stuff. Totally different company. Not related at all. This is healthy drinks that are absolutely delicious. I want to congratulate the team on being the number 6 fastest growing impact-driven business in America. And number 5, congratulations to the team at Quick Click. You know, the team there is led by a friend of mine, Fred Cooper, and I didn't know this. Let me be very clear. I didn't know Fred was involved in this at all. In fact, for some reason, I had mistaken who the CEO of Quick is. But Fred and I have been friends for 30 years. It was fun to reconnect with him the other day, and exciting to see what they're doing. But what they do is they help ordinary folks make a little bit of money as influencers. So it's democratizing influence is what this is really about fundamentally. Very exciting new business. IDI gear. This is, really, this is serious cold weather gear. We're not talking about going outside in the wintertime gear. We're talking about Arctic exploration. This is talking about gear that you wear when you are out and fishing in the Arctic. This is like serious cold weather gear that you wear when your life depends on it. Congratulations to the team. Number 4, holy cow, IDI gear, congratulations. Our friends at Azure Printed Homes, holy mackerel. Number 3, dual list winners. They were the fastest growing environmental solution. They make 3D printed homes using recycled materials and make affordable homes, including a recent project in San Luis Obispo for a community of unhoused people. Just an amazing project that came together quickly and affordably, precisely because of their amazing technology. I want to congratulate the team there for their social impact. Storyline Health. This is a way of using AI for better personal health. And, so congratulations to Jeff and the team at Storyline. We are happy for you and wish you every success in your continued journey to enhance health for other people. This is the big moment. Here's the big moment you've all been waiting for all day. And the number 1 PurposeBuilt100 Company is My Diabetes Tutor, led by Dr. Prem Sahas. This is a big deal. What they have done, and this company is so remarkable in so many ways, in the day and age of AI, bots, and technology solving all of the problems, they have built a one-to-one human model for delivering diabetes education. They do use technology for doing that remotely, but this is really about scaling up one-on-one, human-to-human education for people who are newly diabetic or getting an insulin pump or a continuous glucose monitor. And these technologies are tricky, especially for people who may not have grown up with technology, including a lot of the baby boomers who are experiencing diabetes. And it's having a dramatic health effect on the patients who are receiving this care. And one of the most interesting things about this company, the number one fastest growing impact driven business in America, is this company grew up in a town called Hanford, California. Now you say, well, it's in California. This is where all the tech is. No. We're talking about farm country California. This could just as easily have been in 100 miles south of Des Moines, Iowa, or someplace out in the middle of the Midwest. What we saw is there is no limit on where innovation can happen. It can happen anywhere, including rural America. I want to congratulate the team there. In fact, I am honored to be able to say we have with us Dr. Prem Sahas himself to just say a few words. Dr. Sahas, go ahead. Tell us what it feels like to be the CEO and founder of the fastest growing impact-driven business in America.
So thank you so much, Devin. It's a great honor. Thank you, Devin and SuperCrowd. Being ranked number one on the Purpose List 2026 is a great honor. And I want to credit all these achievements to my entire team. I live in Hanford, California, middle of farm town. That's my home. But we have founders like to brag about their team, but they do that all the time at pitches. But I want to state that my team, my diabetes tutor team, is the best of the best. And I'm sitting here, but we have the very hardworking team members working all over the country, working evenings and weekends to make this a success. Thank you so much. And I look at this recognition like a milestone. We are not close to the finish line. We are too far away from the finish line. I see like huge growth and huge tasks ahead of us. And my vision is to reach out to every person with diabetes in this country, otherwise who doesn't have access to diabetes education. That's a huge task. So we have a huge task ahead of us. And a few things is I want to really thank my investors. Without investors, there's no company. I want to thank my early investors who are mostly physicians who supported my vision, and the 3 family offices who supported my vision. And I just want to also say that, we raised a Series A round backed by VCs, as well as we also did a crowdfunding on Start Engine. So I want to thank the entire team for that. And I have a good news. We still have room for investors before we close the round. And if you want to make some investment, reach out to us at investors@mydiabetiestutor.com, investors with an S at mydiabetiestutor.com, and we can hop on a call. So for a founder, I would like to say that, so the founders initially like all the social media publicity, but the real big day for a founder is the cash flow break-even day. And we are very close. It's going to happen in the next few months, and we want to organically grow after that for some time. And I really want to take a vacation when I reach that cash flow break-even day before the end of this year. I'm really looking forward to that. And thank you so much. I want to thank my entire team for that, for making this a success. And thank you for this recognition. So I'm hoping to be in the top of the list next year and also for the years to come. And Devin, we are going to be good friends. Thank you, Devin.
Thank you, and congratulations again. I'm so happy for you. You know, what you have accomplished is remarkable. And I want to, I know you are focused on the good you are doing. Congratulations. I'm glad you're doing that good. I've got so many diabetics in my family that what you're doing is something that's deeply important and personal to me. But I think what's interesting to everyone watching is how you did this in Hanford. Give us a little sense of how you have tapped into resources, technologies, people, wisdom. I mean, there's a lot that kind of doesn't hang out natively in the community I would expect in Hanford, but maybe Hanford has a vibrant entrepreneurial community. How have you done it?
So I think it's all team building. It's team building, you know. So when I first started, I had a small group of, now we are a team of 60 to 70 plus educators working nationwide. But when I first started, it was started in one of my exam rooms, and I had like 4 to 5 educators working part-time. I had 1 support staff. I got a space in my office building because we switched from paper records to electronic records, and I had an empty room. So I started this business. It didn't start with a pitch deck or a business plan. So after that, it was team building and connections, and I used LinkedIn for my connections, and I selected the best of the best from all over the country over the period of 4 to 5 years to build this program. And the best part is we all work as a team. We are like a family. We all share the vision. We work evenings and nights and weekends to make this a success. And it's all team spirit. That's what I would say, you know. And we are solving a big need. So it's a huge market. There's a big need for diabetes education. We have the best team. We have shown great clinical outcomes, 2 times more than the national average, what a diabetes education can do. So the payers, the patients, the providers who refer to us, the health plans which refers to us, they all like us because of the clinical outcomes. Great patient satisfaction, 98% patient satisfaction scores. On the top of it, the economics are stable. We have good gross margins. We clearly know how much we are going to make. So all these factors is very important for an impact founder to make sure that we have everything online to make it a big success. And I really look forward to the big day, the cash flow break-even day, and take a vacation and give a big party for my team after that day. Thank you.
Well, that will be a great day. That will be a great day, and I can't wait for you to get to that point. Dr. Sahas, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this afternoon, and congratulations on really accomplishing something that is remarkable on so many levels, right? Remarkable because of what you've done from Hanford. Remarkable because growing any business at the scale you have is challenging. Growing something that others would have said is impossible, one-to-one, human-to-human, diabetes education, scaling, people would have said impossible, can't be done, and look at you do it and grow it. So congratulations. We're happy for you, thrilled for you, want to see you continue to grow and succeed with this business. There are millions upon millions of people who need the kind of help that you offer. We want to see them all get it. So again, congratulations. I want to invite you, and I want to invite everyone who's watching to pop into our executive networking session at the top of the hour. We'll be visiting with everyone who shows up, but we already have some winners in there, and it'll be an opportunity for winners to meet each other and for you to meet with winners. If you don't have your executive access ticket, it's still not too late. You can get your executive access ticket at SuperCrowd26.com. Grab a ticket, and then you'll get instructions on how to get into that old networking session. If you're a speaker, sponsor, or winner, you already have access. I want you to join us. If you're not sure how to get there, just send me an email. I email you enough. Just hit reply to any of the emails I've sent you in the last 60 days. It won't be hard to find one, and then we'll get you in. Okay, so thanks, everybody. Dr. Sahas, again, congratulations. We'll hope to see you in the Zoom for a few minutes.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, you know, it's my privilege at this moment to take a pause and just think a little bit with you about what we have seen over the last 3 days. This has really been a remarkable discussion, you know, over 3 days. We have had some extraordinary speakers, truly powerful insights shared by people from a whole wide array. You know, so we've had lawyers who are experts in the field talking about how to do your legal work in compliant, effective, and efficient ways. We've had platform portal executives talking about what the keys to success in capital raising. We have profiled 100 winners throughout the 3-day event. So you've been able to get acquainted with 100 impact-driven, purpose-driven businesses doing amazing things. Every one of them vetted and screened thoughtfully for social impact, making a difference in the world while, and we have seen, you know, powerful discussions about how people are using their purpose, their mission, their why as a core guide and to making progress and doing well and doing good. It's been really an inspiring 3 days for me. I've learned a lot. You know, one of the standout presentations for me was Ann Carlson talking about how purpose drives her. But she figured out that the key to success in the business was to old school marketing, right? Sell the benefits, not the impact. And that was an important message for me, right? As we work to help entrepreneurs raise capital, help investors make more money from investing, impact is our mission. Making a difference in the world is our mission. But that isn't what we're selling. What our consumers want is help to raise money, help to make more money as investors, and we deliver that. But I've got to rethink my marketing. That was a profoundly important message for me to hear. We heard from Stephen Szaky just a bit ago talking about he raised some important points. He said, you know, the world is full of failed purpose-driven businesses. It is no guarantee, right? We have to make sure that our businesses work on some other level besides purpose. And he says that as a purpose-driven, health-oriented founder who has built a very successful business that is growing by leaps and bounds. You know, so it's been a really fun day. I want to call out 2 or 3 companies that are just, you know, really, I think, standout, exceptional companies. We just celebrated My Diabetes Tutor, right? The #1 fastest growing impact-driven business in America. But I think it's worth pointing out Tampon Tribe was a number 10 on the overall list, but also #2 on the list of businesses that are women-led, and also on the list of companies that are environmental impact. I mean, that's a, that kind of trifecta, that hat trick, if you will, is impressive. And I am really excited about seeing that. So there are some great companies in this community. We're thrilled to be a part of that. We're thrilled to share their stories with you. We look forward to being back next year. We view the PurposeBuilt 100 as an annual event. We'll be comparing 2026 revenue to 2022 revenue next year as we do that. So if you are a purpose-driven founder, I want you to start gearing up. I appreciated Dr. Saha saying he wants to be at the top of the list every year going forward. That will get more challenging as he scales and grows. But I love the goal. I love the goal and want to see companies meaningfully think about how to make that goal an important part of their business. The overall goal for me in sharing the story is to help investors see that purpose can be aligned with potential returns, right? If you can scale a business to tens of millions, hundreds of millions, or even billions of dollars like Sunrun, you don't have to worry. If investors believe that, right, then you can raise the capital you need to grow your business. So I want to congratulate everyone who's on the list for helping us prove that impact can scale. I think that's a vitally important message. I want to congratulate everyone on the list for that. As we wrap up now, again, I want to reiterate the invitation for everyone who's watching to join us in the networking session where we'll be celebrating and congratulating the winners. Everyone is invited to join us. We'll be in there at the top of the hour. The room is open now. You're welcome to pop in. So if you are a speaker, sponsor, or winner, you have access already. If you don't have access, you can buy access for $50. If you are an impact member of the SuperCrowd and haven't claimed your ticket yet, you can claim your ticket right now for free. You're already paid by virtue of being an impact member of the SuperCrowd. Any questions about that, shoot me an email. We're happy to help you figure out how to get in. We want you to be a part of this conversation, this celebration. We invite you to join us now. And with that, I'm going to say good night. And again, we wish you well. And thank you all for being with us for the last 3 days.
It starts with a question, a better way. Something worth building.
Carl, great to see you here.
Something worth changing. A spark becomes motion. A few become more. You take what you believe in and open the door. One step, one voice, one reason to begin. When purpose finds momentum, that's when possibility kicks in. We're built for more. More than a moment. More than before. Built with a reason. Built to endure. We grow what matters. We open the door. Built on purpose. We're built for more. Oh yeah, turn waste into value.